Okay, folks, welcome to the October 25th council meeting. It is 6:07 p.m. and I am calling this meeting to order. Before we get going this evening, I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Iroquois Mi'kmaq First Nations people. And as a community, we recognize the ever-present systemic inequities that stem directly from past wrongdoings, and we commit ourselves indefinitely to respecting and reconciling this long history of injustice. Now, we're going to look to the agenda for this evening. It should be coming up on your screen right now. So we have done our call to order. We're now on to our approval of the agenda. At this point in the meeting, only counselors who have already been sworn in are going to be able to be moving and seconding motions. So at point 4, swearing in of new counselors, that's where we will have our new counselors being able to start participating in tonight's meeting. So I would ask for the next couple of minutes as we go through the first couple of motions that our new counselors do not vote or move motions. Thank you. So on to approval of the agenda. At this time, I am asking for a motion for approval of the agenda.
Point of information.
Yes, Malik?
I was just wondering, do we approve the agenda first before proposing amendments to the agenda, or do we propose an amendment to the agenda before we approve it?
Great question. In order to discuss the agenda, we need to move a motion to accept the agenda. So if you wanted to make an amendment, you'd have to move a motion to accept the agenda, have it be seconded, and then we could move an amendment.
I would like to move to approve the agenda.
Thank you for your motion, VPAX. Can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Tasneef, the International Student Representative. Malik, would you like to speak to that motion?
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see everyone here.
Great, thank you very much for your motion. Would anyone like to speak to that motion, including move amendments?
I would like to move to amend the agenda.
As amended, what would it read?
I'd like to add a line 8 that reads new budget items.
So would you like to replace line 8 and
Push
have
it,
line 8 become line 9?
please.
Okay. So new. Great. So the proposed amendment is to make an addition to the agenda, replacing item 8 with new budget items. Thank you for your amendment. Can I get a seconder for that amendment, please? I see seconded by Tasneef, our International Student Representative. Malik, would you like to speak to your amendment?
My amendment is a proposition by our VP Finance, who will be tackling this item.
Great, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to this amendment? Please indicate so using the raise hand function. Seeing no one, we will move to a vote, which will be done using the polling feature. Let's launch the poll. Vote now. All in favor of the amendment, all opposed, and anyone who would wish to abstain. Great. I'm seeing a lot of abstentions on this poll. My assumption would be abstentions are coming from our new counselors. If you are not a new counselor and you wish to abstain on this motion, please indicate so by name in the chat box. That amendment has carried. We are now back to discussion on the agenda for this evening. Any additional amendments at this time?
Ashley,
Yes.
so say your BP student life. I would like to make an amendment to move to amend the agenda, and the thing would be like I want to include ratification of new clubs and societies.
Great, thank you very much. Is there a point at which you would like that added, Jose?
You can add that after my events so that I just say all my things. So between 0.7 and 8.
Okay, thank you very much. So the amendment is the addition of ratification of new societies as moved by the VPSL. Can I get a seconder for that amendment, please? Seconded by Tasneef. You're very on the ball tonight. Thank you very much. Jose, would you like to speak to that amendment?
Yes. I am excited to talk to all of you about 2 new groups that we have in campus that I would like to ratify for the year. I think they have like a lot planned for the year.
Great, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to this amendment? You could indicate so by using the raise hand function. Seeing no one, we will once again move to a vote. The poll is now live. All in favor, all opposed, and any abstentions. Great, that motion has carried. So that amendment has been made. We are now back to discussing the agenda. Are there any further amendments for this evening's agenda? Seeing no one, we will move to a vote on the agenda itself. That vote is now open. All in favor of approval of the agenda as is. All opposed, and anyone who wishes to abstain. That has carried. So the agenda has been approved. We'll now move on to the next point on the agenda for this evening, which is approval of the minutes from the September 27th, 2020 meeting. Can I motion for approval of these minutes, please? I'm still seeking a motion to approve the minutes from the September 27th council meeting.
I would like to move to approve the minutes from the September 27th council meeting.
Thank you, VPAX Malik, for your motion. Can I get a seconder for that motion, please? Seconded by Science Rep Riley. Thank you. Malik, would you like to speak to the approval of these minutes?
No, thank you.
Would anyone like to speak to these minutes? So this would be to correct any issues noted within the minutes. I see Business Rep Sam McLean.
I was just wondering if these are the minutes from the extraordinary meeting or the previous Sunday.
They are the minutes from the previous Sunday meeting. The minutes from the extraordinary meeting have not been filed yet because we are still trying to track down attendance on those minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions and or concerns with the minutes? Seeing none, we will once again move to a vote on approval. All in favor of approval of the minutes from the September 27th council meeting? All opposed, and those who wish to abstain. For the abstentions, if any of the abstentions are from counselors who are already sworn in, please indicate so in the chat box so that your abstention can be recorded. That motion has passed. We'll now be on to item 4 of our agenda for this evening, which is swearing in of new counselors. So this should be fun. As I call your folks' name, please go ahead and put on your video so that we can see you, and then go ahead and read your declaration of office form that was circulated via email. And we'll start with Adam.
So the confidentiality agreement, or
Nope, not the confidentiality, the other
This
one,
one?
yes, that one. Great, thank you.
I, Adam McKenzie, holding the position of first-year representative on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Great, thank you very much, Adam, and welcome to the UPEISU.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to Maggie.
I, Maggie LeClaire, holding the position of Senate Representative on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Great, thank you very much, Maggie, and welcome to the UPEISU. Jennifer? Jennifer, are you there?
I forgot to unmute mute.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer.
I'm gonna start again now. I, Jennifer Stewart, holding the position of Senate Rep on Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best reputation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Great, thank you very much, Jennifer, and welcome. Chioma?
I, Chioma Onyago, am holding the position of Arts Rep on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union. Do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much and welcome. Nellie?
Can you see me?
Yes.
I can't see myself, so. Okay, perfect. Second. Okay. I, Nelly Foyette, holding the position of Arts Representative on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEI Student Union. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEI Student Union Student Council possible during my term in office.
Thank you very much, Nelly, and welcome.
That's it? Awesome.
Akene?
I, Ekenonya Golom, holding the position of the business representative on the Students' Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Students' Union, do well to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do this in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaw, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Students' Council possible during my term in office.
Thank you and welcome. Ala?
I, Ala Ahmed, holding the position of Math and Computer Science Representative on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Great, thank you and welcome. Amir? Is Amir with us tonight? Do not see Amir in our participants, so we will Star.
Hello, I, Star Brown, holding the position of Residence Representative on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Thank you, Star, and welcome. Hisham?
Oh, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I, Hisham Al-Hamshari, holding the position of Ombudsperson on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, UPEISU, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Great, thank you very much. And again, welcome. And Akshay.
Oh, finally me. I, Akshay Bhaskar, holding the position of Board of Governors representative on the Student Council of University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our new counselors. It
You
is
forgot me.
Oh, sorry, Sam. That was my
No worries.
bad.
No worries. at all.
Sam, education rep, go ahead. I am so sorry.
Yep, no worries. I, Samuel Midkiff, holding the position of Education Representative on the Student Council of the University of Prince Edward Island Student Union, do swear to fulfill the duties of my position to the best of my ability. I do also swear to do so in such a way that upholds the Constitution, policies, bylaws, and ideals of the UPEISU. I also strive to represent those students in my constituency in such a way that allows them to receive the best representation of the UPEISU Student Council possible during my term in office.
Great. Thank you very much, Sam, and welcome to the UPEISU. Once again, it's great to see everyone joining us this evening, and it's great to have a full council again. So welcome to all of our new counselors, and you folks are now fully seated counselors. You're able to move motions, second motions, and discuss on everything. So now we'll move on to our next item on the agenda for this evening, which is reports. And we'll be starting with the president's report. Brian, would you like the ability to screen share for your report?
Yes, please.
Great. You now have the ability to screen share.
Wonderful. 1 second. Perfect. Can everybody see this?
The floor is yours.
Wonderful. Okay. So hello, everyone. We're at council again. It's been quite a while since the last meeting. Welcome to all our new counselors. A lot has happened since our last council meeting. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. And yes, let's go. So the first thing I'd like to talk about and that I've been able to work on would be the Casa NAC meeting. We've met a couple of times and we're able to discuss about Advo Month in November at the federal level, focusing on how we want to organize the campaign for all different schools across Canada, discussing means to advocate for the campaign. And the theme we've chosen until now has been the Mind the Gaps theme, and it's still being worked on as of now. Then we had the education faculty socials. Our education rep, Sam, was also an attendant of the event. Usually we have a barbecue for the education faculty that happens during the summer. Because of COVID, it couldn't happen. So we've been working really hard with the faculty executives to be able to see what we could organize. And we're able to host on Monday and Tuesday faculty socials. It was some kind of a dinner. And it was like very well attended. We had around 66 students and about that number over 2 days. And I really have to shout out to the executives, the bar manager, the staff of Fox and Crow, as well as the faculty executives, without which this event would not have been a success. Then we had the campaign period marketing with the executives, the chief returning officer, and the communications and marketing manager. It was towards the end of the fall 2020 election, so mostly deciding what is the approach we want to be having on social media or through email to be able to best communicate and encourage more students to be able to go to the polls and vote for the elections. You might have seen we had a contest to win $25 gift cards. There was videos that was posted, so a lot of this work was done for that meeting. Then we had the bag giveaway for the residents, which was an amazing event. We at the home office were able to prepare the resource bags. Basically, it was constituting of 2 bags. So 1 bag with UPEISU resources about everything that we do as an organization. And another bag was with the local products that we had that we received from the government and we're going to give away to the students, to residents particularly. But I will leave Jose to speak most on that since he was the main lead on the project and he might have more details to talk about based on this. Then we had the Casa Instagram takeover. So the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, which we, the UPEISU, are part of. Our VPACs, Malik and I were present for that event, whereby for a whole day we took over the social media showcasing a day at the UPEISU, and also raising awareness of the UPEISU's responsibilities to students. So that was an amazing opportunity to really show the work that we do here at the UPEISU, both at the national level and also to our students. Then I had the development, fundraising, and external relations meeting. So that's a subcommittee of a board of governors. As it says, a little bit of here tells a bit of the work that we do. So there was an orientation session and we went over the gift agreement policies, awards and scholarships overview, a marketing and communications update for the whole university. And also we discussed some things such as the capacity that we have at school, and some of the information that I think might be useful that came out of a meeting was how right now we only have 6 classrooms at UPEI that can fit a maximum of 50 students. And that's one of the items that was discussed mostly to focus on what the winter semester might look like. Also, we discussed recruitment initiatives amidst COVID-19, how this changes everything based on recruitment officers going to different countries and how that might look like of a shift to online. We're able to rename the UPEI Observatory. So a lot of physics students might know that we have the UPEI Observatory, and usually that was the name before, UPEI Observatory, but we were able to rename it to the Professor Earl L. Wonnacott Observatory, mostly because he was a founder of the establishment of this facility. And he also passed away in October 2019. So in the name of 1 year after his passing away, we're able to rename it from a request that was brought forward to the committee. We also discussed the fundraising opportunities at UPEI. So as listed here are the different, it's basically the list of like what the Alumni Association is working towards collecting money for and the initiatives for this year. There was also the ad hoc COVID-19 committee that I was a member of. We mostly discussed the model of delivery for winter semester, social distancing fines happening across different universities in the Atlantic region, as well as the prevalence of financial instability and concern regarding the fees for the winter semester that is coming really soon. We had the OER Advo plus marketing committee. We were able to finalize infographics and messaging for the OER week campaign, which happened during October 19th and October 23rd. So if you were able to see on our social media, we had a lot of things going on concerning open educational resources, and a lot of students were asking questions, which was really helpful because that's something we need to do and bring forward more awareness on open educational resources, specifically for students, such that we're much better able to advocate to government and secure funding from the university also for more investment in open educational resources. I also had a meeting with the Alumni Association review. So we have an AGM upcoming the next week. As the president of UPEISU, I give a report typically to the organization. So there was a meeting that happened whereby we were discussing the role of the UPEISU president and his involvement with the alumni AGM, priorities of the UPEISU for the year, and discussing current student concerns and ways for the Alumni Association to best support students right now. Then we had an open educational resources meeting with our comms manager to really finalize the details on the social media presence of the OER and make sure that it went over smoothly. Another committee that I was able to assist was the Finance and Audit Committee, another subcommittee of the Board of Governors. There was orientation. We went over a presentation of the UPEI's 2019-2020 financial statements, the 2019-2020 financial audit results. So the auditors were present there and presented to us the reports. We had an in-camera session to discuss exactly what is working well with the university and what was not working well, and things like that. There was an internal control deficiencies and recommendations. So what's not working, what was the auditor's recommendations, what did the university have to say concerning that? There was a comprehensive review of the auditor to see, just to check our relationship with the auditor and make sure that everything is fine concerning that. And we also had an update on the network revitalization project, which in short is just the campus Wi-Fi. That's an ongoing project right now to make it better than it used to be before. There was also the virtual Decades Jeopardy. I was able to co-host our VPSL, but as a lead, the VPSL will be touching more on these online events later on. We had budget committee with our VP Finance, Yemikan, and General Manager. We're hoping today to have possibly more of you counselors joining the budget committee. It's really fun to work on. We're able to adapt the budget, and VP Finance, as the lead on it, will probably be commenting more on this later on. I had a meeting for Casa Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. We met twice, and we're able to discuss Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee project chart. Right now, I'm working on researching on difficult EDI topics, and we're all assigned subcommittees to tackle the project chart in itself, and should be done before the end of the year. We also had a team training with the home office team. We were able to go for team building and discussing priorities of the organization for the year and setting collaborative targets and expectations for the year. We had the extraordinary council meeting whereby basically we approved the new councilors to council. The Senate Steering Committee, we went over 4 important topics: the setting agenda for the Senate, quarantine plans for January, winter term update, as well as convocation committee, which I'm now a part of. To touch more on this, the convocation committee was able to meet during the fall semester break. We discussed the change of time for convocation, so June instead of May, going over different possible models of convocation, in person, blended, online. Then there was also the Premier's Council for Recovery and Growth, Sector Champions. As a president of the UPEISU, I was invited as one of our sector champions to provide input of post-secondary students into the plan that is being made for the recovery and growth of PEI after COVID-19. I was glad, for example, that we had an initial conversation during the summer and then we're working online, but then for the second meeting, we're able to see the outcome of that first contribution that we brought forward. And I was very pleased that offering world-class education and training where people excel is one of the 5 priority themes for the report in itself and the work that is going to be done by the province. And also from that second meeting that I just attended, I was able to also make submissions to the committee to highlight the importance of addressing high-speed internet and bandwidth issues and increase access to tools such as computers and tablets in order to effectively deliver education and training across PEI, and also the economic aspect of post-secondary education after COVID-19. So the need to remove a significance of parental income on student loan applications, as well as supporting post-secondary students for rent supplements, tuition supports, student loan supports, and food. Then we had the Board of Governors prep. So our Board of Governors representative and I were able to meet and go over a bit about what Board of Governors is, what are their responsibilities and role, and what to expect from a meeting. A lot of work was done for the Mi'kmaq History Month. So I've been working mostly with Elder Judy and working with a comms and marketing manager to put out infographics and digital content for our social media, as well as looking into the possibilities of collaboration and also an Instagram takeover. So keep an eye for next week. We had the Board of Governors, whereby we discussed infrastructure updates, the Alumni Road, Canadian Centre for Climate Change and Adaptation, the new residents, and also the board committee updates. But I will leave it to our Board of Governors rep to cover this more in details. There was a meeting also for the annual fund as an ambassador, so the collaboration with the Department of Alumni and Engagement. And the focus mostly would be to target international alumni and how we can base fundraising initiatives on small donations to be able to better help UPEI students on campus. There's also another collaboration with the Department of Development and Alumni that I'm involved in, which is the Giving Back Tuesday campaign. We were able to discuss the campaign details and setting a date, but should be after the Black Friday. Then we have the council retreat prep with our chair and executives, discussing details of council retreat, division of task of materials to cover, discussion of possibility of in-person council. We had a meeting with William McQuiggan, a previous president of the UPEISU Union, who's now working with the government as the youth engagement officer. So we had the meeting with the execs and discussing our portfolios and accomplishments, going over current student issues, setting out ways to collaborate, as well as detailing current and upcoming projects. Again, like the Board of Governors had a meeting with our VPACs with the Senate reps. So it was mostly to discuss roles and responsibilities and going over the agenda meeting package, but more importantly, what is the Senate and what is the job that they do. And then we had the Senate, which we discussed the winter 2021 and convocation, but our Senate reps will probably be touching more on the details later on. I'll leave that to them. And one thing that I'm actually very happy about to give an update, but I've been providing information over the last council meetings, but finally we've gotten a positive result on which That's something that I've been able to work on over the summer and was expecting it to happen very soon, but finally the committee has been set. So the COVID-19 Student Support Scholarship Committee, and the $100,000 from the province that was promised during the summer has finally come to UPEI, and the committee has already been formed. As the president of the UPEISU, I'm part of the committee, which means I'm going to be involved in the selection and application of students for that funding. And it's specifically towards international students, which was most of my job was really to make sure that this promise was respected. Over the summer and specifically during COVID-19, international students had been touched as much as any student, but the amount of resources put forward to international students was not as much in comparison to domestic students. So that was one of the means to bridge that gap and really show that there's support for international students too. And the $100,000 is going to be respected and be put forward for that purpose. It's going to be needs-based funding and based on how COVID-19 has impacted them. So that will be in the application, and it will be starting very soon from October 23rd to October 29th. Something should be posted in that timeframe. And that would be my report. I hope it wasn't too long.
Great. Thank you very much for your report, Brian. Are there any questions for the president on his report? If you did have a question, please use the raise hand function. A final chance for any questions for the president on his report. Seeing none, we will move on with the agenda. Thank you again for your report, Brian.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda for this evening is the report for the VPACs. Malik, would you like the ability to share screen?
I'm okay with either. I'm okay with you sharing the screen or me sharing the screen. I'm okay with anything.
Sure, I will. Oh, Brian, I have accidentally given you host.
Oh, let me see.
Could you share that back with me, please?
For sure, I'll do so right away.
Great, thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
And then Malik, make co-host. There we go. You now have the
Can you folks see my screen? Yes, okay, perfect. Hey everyone, welcome to the council meeting. So this report is a little bit longer because we basically had 3 weeks where we hadn't reported since the last council meeting. So it covers a longer time period. And how I broke down my reports is something I kind of stole from Jose, is I divided my role into 3 parts: academic, external, and then miscellaneous. And the little brackets that you see here are the dates at which these things were completed. So I'll start with the academic. So I meet with the VP Academic and Research of the university, Dr. Kathy Gotchelpass, on a bi-weekly basis. So I met with her and we discussed a policy that I'm working on for international students that has to do with the relation between the registrar's office and Health PEI, and I can be bringing that to council next week. Actually, it's basically about sending enrollment verifications to Health PEI. There's a little bit of a legal question there that we want to solve, so I was discussing that with her, and because we had been following up with each other on what the registrar's office can do. And we also discussed the possibility of mid-semester evaluations, which I then, after that, brought that to APCC. And so if some of your professors send you through Moodle surveys of what do you think about the semester so far or about this course so far, that could have probably came up from one of these conversations, is that I was like, if professors can reach out to their students and ask, what do you think about this course so far? That would be amazing. And then we had Senate committees. So APCC, which is Academic Planning and Curriculum Committee, we met on the 6th of October and we approved changes to the academic dates for 2020-2021, academic dates for ABC for 2021-2022, academic dates for the DVM program, which is the Doctors of Veterinary Medicine program at ABC for 22-23. And the registrar's office was looking at accepting, there's different English proficiency tests that the registrar's office accepts, and now they wanted to make sure that they're also accepting the online version of one of them. So we approved that. Changed the prefixes of some nursing courses, changed the prerequisites of some of the Doctor of Psychology courses, and changed the title of an anthropology course. And then we talked about how if a student gets an incomplete on one of their courses, how that procedure happens, and again, brought up student mid-semester feedback and surveys. I'm going to try to go through this a little bit faster just because there's a lot to go through. And then APCC met again a couple of weeks after, 2 weeks after, and we talked about archiving Moodle courses. So how long you would be able to access the courses on your Moodle. We're looking at a reasonable timeline between from 30 days is like the absolute minimum. They weren't going for that to 1 to 3 years, which was my recommendation, that, you know, students may use these courses for reference throughout their degree. We talked about having a Korean center on campus and the faculty development office, which was also brought up during Senate. We had our Senate prep meeting with our new counselors. So the president and I met with the new Senate reps to prepare them for Senate that Friday, and then we had the Senate meeting, and I didn't include bullets under my Senate meeting because I will leave it up to the Senate reps to report on what happened in Senate. We have had 4 students reach out so far with regards to student grievances, so that includes academic appeals, and I was guiding the academic coordinator throughout some of those. And then I'm also working on a longer term grievance with one of the students, and I met with them to discuss that. We also have the OER repository campaign that we were running with Students Nova Scotia and the New Brunswick Student Alliance. So I had a couple of meetings for those where we discussed the content and how the campaign is going to happen. And then I also met with our communications manager, Ashley, to give her the posts and the content to post on our social media. And that's all for my academic part. And then for external, I had a bunch of meetings. Some of them were for Casa, or the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations. So my committee, the Federal Policy Committee, we met on the 30th of September. We presented our progress on our student financial aid policy, on our international student experience policy. I also don't have a secretary for that committee right now, so I took the minutes and circulated the policies for feedback. Had our Casa board meeting, which also happens every 2 weeks. So I am a member of the board on Casa, similar to how Yumkin is a member on the board of the Campus Trust, and reported my duties as Director of Policy. And we were also talking about our Federal Advocacy Month, which is going to happen throughout the month of November during that meeting, and had a meeting with the Executive Director at Casa to discuss federal and provincial Indigenous student policy priorities and research. So we were giving each other ideas about, you know, what was your research, what was my research, how we can pool these, what's the federal ask looking like, what's our provincial ask looking like, etc. Every month we have 3 Casa board liaison calls, and these are calls that the board reaches out to some of our Casa members, 3 of them a month, to, you know, give them an update of the board. So I had 3 of those, and we submit reports about those to our Director of Membership. Had a meeting with the Casa chair to discuss progress, had another Casa board meeting, and then more Casa liaison calls. We also had a meeting with the Government Youth Engagement Officer, along with all the other VPs and the president, who was actually, fun fact, a former president of the UPEISU. And we discussed with him, you know, what our year as the UPEISU is looking like, what our priorities are, and we discussed loads and loads of policy. And I am currently working with Staples to finish off our lobby doc, which is basically the document that I take with me into government meetings, to design and print that. Hopefully we'll have it ready before November. That is the goal. I am also following up with one of our lawyers to seek, again, the question about legal advice with the question regards international students and health guards and the registrar's office. I will give more context probably next week when I present that policy, but I was hoping to present, just one policy topic each meeting, so I won't combine. But I think it would be an interesting one, and still waiting on, there's back and forth happening with the questions about the legal advice. I also contacted Julia Wright, who is the program coordinator at Skills PEI for the graduate mentorship program. So as I had mentioned before, international students are one of our priorities for our policy priorities. And there's one policy that we wrote earlier this year about international student retention. So keeping international students on the island after they graduate and what they need to do that. There's a program called the Graduate Mentorship Program, which basically provides a wage subsidy for any university graduate. So when you apply for a job, you can say, well, you know what, the government can cover up to 50% of my wage, so hire me. And international students used to be eligible for that. We're no longer eligible for that. We're kind of in a limbo process right now. So I was following up on that. And also called the mayor one more time to see if we can present to the Standing Committee on Finance, Audit, and Tendering about our money for our laptops, basically our technology policy. Sent out our Indigenous student policy for feedback from all the Indigenous community groups that we had reached out to initially. And contacted Honorable Matthew McKay, who is the Minister of Economic Growth, Tourism, Culture, to set up a meeting to talk about experiential education and other employment and retention opportunities for university students. And then miscellaneous is just like other. So we attended the education faculty social event. I was there for one of the events, helped the Fox and Crow team serve, and that was first time serving, was fun. Had our executive committee meetings that happens every week. We just discussed, what are our projects, what we need help on. I sat on a meeting with the chief returning officer to help with anything elections related, and went with Jose and the other VPs and the president to the residents to do the bag giveaway. Did Thursday tap takeover, so just supported Mike at the Fox and Crow. Did an interview with the cadre alongside Callie, our mental health officer, and Ayumakin, talked about some of our projects, and again, executive committee, staff training, extraordinary council meeting, and then had another meeting with the VPACs at Acadia Students Union because they were interested in our access of technology policy, so shared some research. And that's it from me, folks. Happy to answer any question.
Thank you very much for your report. Are there any questions for the VPACs at this time? You can indicate the need to ask a question by using the raise hand function. I see Tasneef.
Hey, Malik. I hope you're doing well. I had a question regarding your academic. You said that you discussed about the midterm evaluations. I just wanted to know if the timing was discussed, because instead of the difficulty of questions or the type of questions, I think students are mostly struggling with finishing the exam in time. And I know a lot of students, they're not being able to finish their exams in time. They know all of the questions, or they're fine with the type of questions or the type of exam, but they're not being able to finish the exams. So I just wanted to know if this was discussed.
So thank you for bringing that up. It wasn't brought up. So at APCC and at the meeting with Dr. Kathy Goshelpass, I mentioned that, professors reaching out to your students would be a great thing to do right now, to ask them about how their semester is going. However, we can't, because of academic freedom, which is something that every educator has, they have academic freedom. You can't really mandate them to do anything. So it wasn't brought up. However, on the bright side of things, I will be meeting with Callie next week to put out a survey for students about how their mental health has been this semester and how their academics have been this semester. And we're looking at encompassing all of those little things. So we will be putting out a survey soon, asking all of those questions. So if you do have any concerns about that, and other students who have concerns about that, please recommend that they do put that in the survey when the survey goes out, and that they answer the survey. And then I will also be bringing results of that survey to Senate, because during our last Senate meeting, it was mentioned that we want to have a conversation with the deans and the students about how did this semester go so we can improve next semester and possibly long-term if online has to go more than that. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see the VPSL.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so it's just a point of interest. As I mentioned during training or orientation yesterday, I don't currently have a laptop. So Ashley, if you could continue to share Malik's screen because we'll be putting my report there, if that's okay.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions for the VPACs on her report? Seeing none, we will move to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much for your report, Malik. We'll now open the floor to VPSL, Jose, and I believe Malik is going to share a screen for him. I see Carrie Cruz.
Yeah, I just wanted, before we move on, to just remind Tasnif that to remind students if they need more time, that they can always register with accessibility services to ensure that they are being accommodated. I know like there's probably more students than usual who might need more time because of given like, you know, it's a pandemic and it's a weird year, but I just wanted to remind him that sorry, my cat's being too loud. To remind everyone, I guess, as the accessibility rep that we do need to remind students about the ability to get help on campus through accessibility services.
That is a great point to bring up, Carrie. Thank you so much for sharing that. If there are no additional questions for the VPACs, we will move to the VPSL's report.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me / see my report?
Yes, Jose, you're good to go.
Yay. So let's get this going. You're free to give me some claps in the things through Zoom. I accept those or a thumbs up, but here I go. So basically, as Malik mentioned, the report this will be a little bit longer than usual just because we're covering almost like a whole month of work from September 28th until October 25th. My responsibilities are broken down in 4. So clubs and societies, general events, campaigns, and my version of Miscellaneous is others. So let's see. Everything I do with clubs and societies is in collaboration with my clubs and societies coordinator, Lina Dabu. So shouts out to her for doing a great job in supporting me. So a big thing that I did in this time period was that I wanted to better support other groups on campus. And I was thinking about how I could do that. And I know a lot of students have been affected financially due to COVID-19, maybe because they got less hours in their jobs, or maybe they couldn't even find a job at all. The Club and Societies membership card is a project I work hard in the summer that has over 25 businesses where you can get local discounts. And I thought that a nice way to give like a pick-me-up for students who might be struggling financially was kind of reach out to those groups and be able to provide them cards. So I reach out to groups that function similar to clubs and societies, but are not ratified under the SU. Whether in future years the BPSL decides to keep supporting these groups with membership cards, it's up to them, but I decided to do it. So first I reach out to the student athletes with athletics and recreation, and I distributed cards to them. And that's the breakdown of the different groups and the amount of people per group. In total, 277 cards were distributed to student athletes. I think that's great because student athletes tend to not participate a lot beyond their athletics, and that makes sense because their schedule is so crazy with training and stuff. But hopefully this will encourage them to attend UPEISU events and other things on campus. Moving on from that, another group that I reached out to was the International Students Office. They have things like the language exchange program and the international buddy program. Both of those function similar to the 20 club or society, so I thought it would be good to reach out to them. 20 were given to the language exchange program, mainly because a lot of their students are not in PEI. And then for the international buddy program, they're still getting their bearings and getting the students to join the program because the coordinator was not hired until a couple of weeks ago. but fully support the decision. If you want to get more involved on campus and stuff, I recommend the buddy program. It's great. In total, something that I'm happy to report, and I think I mentioned it yesterday, is that roughly 1,100 membership cards have been distributed to 8 student finances. And it's like a little yay for me. And I have a breakdown of those, of how they were given to different groups. But I won't go into it, but it's there for the future BPSL. To catch everybody up on club and societies, we have 30 registered so far. Of all of those, 28 have been ratified, and there's 2 that are yet to be ratified, which are the SciD Student Association and the Autonomous Robotics and Applications. I will be elaborating more on those when we reach that point in the agenda. And over there, you can see the breakdown of the club societies we have available on campus so far. If you're interested in joining any of them, even though you are counselors, you can still join any of them and participate. Beyond that, on more specifics, I assisted the Applied Human Sciences Societies to re-ratify, the same with the Nursing Society. Lynn and I helped write the constitution for the Chinese Student Fellowship and Upei Undergraduate Journal Club. We encourage 2 big points for existing club societies, which is to create a personal email and to create a bank account. The first one is because if groups do not have a personal email and they use their student email as the main contact information for clubs, it's really hard for them to pass on the information from that group to next year's executives, because they don't want to give their personal information. So we're trying to really drill in that they need to have a specific email, like biologysociety@upeisu.ca. And then for the banking account, it's mainly because if a group doesn't have a banking account, they cannot receive funding from us. So Lina and I are just really trying for club societies to have all the tools available they'll need to succeed. A lot of clubs on campus are trying to remain active despite everything that's happening with COVID-19, which I love. So English Society has some events planned. Parks Canada did one at the Confed Trail. The UPI Blood Donation Team has a music bingo on Wednesday at the Fox and Crow, which I recommend all of you to go to, or my pumpkin carving, because they'll be happening at the same time. And then the Chemistry Society wanted to do a breakfast outside campus. I think they're going to do it at Tim Hortons or something. Finally, SAFs. I'm really trying to work hard to support SAFs because AVC students struggle. So there's 240 students enrolled, and all 240 of them are receiving membership cards tomorrow. I'm making care packages for AVC students, which include things like instant coffee, snacks, kind of like study kits and stuff like that. Just because I know that what I heard from the faculty there and also the SAFs executives was that AVC students are not having the best time right now. So just supporting them better this year. Currently, I'm working hard to bring back some societies that show interest but are yet to come back. Those include the Environmental Student Society, JAG.org, UPI, Sociology Anthropology Society, Kinesiology, PEI, and the Nursing Research Club. Sadly, our first social event night did not happen just because I did not get enough feedback from clubs and societies. So I assume a lot of them wanted to take their reading week to relax and chill, which is completely understandable. Tomorrow, the Clubs and Societies Coordinator will announce, we'll have our second committee meeting, and then we'll announce one of our clubs event, which these groups have 1 week to participate in. It's a logo battle. We reshared the sign up for clubs and societies so that students who didn't notice the clubs and societies fair will maybe reconsider joining clubs, and we've been getting some steady numbers on that, so that's always good. And Clubapalooza, which was the first Clubs Cup event supposed to happen at the end of September, got canceled because the main purpose behind that event was to recruit more groups. And that was just in case that we didn't have any groups coming back because of COVID. I was expecting way lower numbers, but with the 30 we have right now, it's a solid number, but I'll still encourage others to still create their own groups and societies. I might have to go a little bit quicker, I don't know. Then moving on to general events. As Malak and Brian mentioned, we have Activate Our Island bag giveaways. I also prepared student union resource bags, which included an agenda, an event calendar, the student life guide, the club's handbook, and stuff like that. We gave those to resident students, and we gave a total of 180 bags to the student body. And we got to advertise for the Panther Patrol, and also we got to speak with some of our constituents. So it was a pretty nice event. I would call it a success. And then the UPSU Virtual Events Week, it was a sketch show, and I will elaborate on that in that red point I have down there in the bottom. But yeah, we had a Decades Jeopardy on October 6th. It was canceled. Virtual Bingo, which around 9 students attended, and Virtual Disney Trivia, which around 22 students attended. The UPSU Master Student Chef Contest has been happening for the month of October. I've been spamming nonstop, so I hope some of you saw it places. I had to basically set up the Facebook group, figure out with our communications manager and the rest of the team the logistics for participating, the rules, regulations, and process for picking winners. Having an application form, did a lot of online promotions. As of today, the group has 272 members, 22 registrations and submissions of recipes are available in the group, which I think it's a pretty decent number considering it's a COVID semester. With all the information I'm compiling from that competition, I'm putting together the UPSU Master Student Chef Book, which will also include easy to cook recipes for students on budgets, which will be available at the UPEISU Supplies and the Chapel Center Food Bank. The other thing I've been working on is pretty much the same setup, but differently for the art battle, starting November 1st all the way until November 30th. So if any of your friends are artsy people, crafty people, people who like to draw, paint, build, and do those type of stuff, encourage them to participate. They can win the same prizes, which means $500, $300, or $150. The group will go up when November starts, and all the information on how to participate will be there. I was the executive member who got to go to the NSARS Vigil for support. I'll elaborate more on that later. And then finally, okay, so here's what happened. For the virtual events, and I'll explain some on that to everybody. So we had first our Jeopardy. We had a situation. Yeah, we had a situation for the Decades Jeopardy in which Brian and I were hosting, and then 7 accounts logged into the Zoom link out of nowhere, and they were not admitted or anything into the group. They just managed to get in. So I assume it was like a hacking situation. That's what I thought, but then it did happen. So how do I put this lightly? They were saying some offensive things both in the mic and also in the chat. They were drawing some things that could also be considered highly offensive. And in general, the event was getting out of hand, and I had to cancel the event halfway through. The virtual bingo went well, but then again, on the next day on Disney Trivia, we tried to use menti.com, which if you don't know, it's kind of like Kahoot, to better keep track of every student's answers. The problem is Menti keeps perfect spelling track, and it wasn't giving answers to people who maybe didn't use quotations or caps where they had to. So online events still have a lot to quirks to like iron out, which is why for right now, specifically my virtual events, at least like the ones that I was gonna have bi-weekly, are on hold. Just because before giving the floor to volunteers to take on over those events, I want to prioritize students' safety. So the thing with the hackers doesn't happen again, and I want to iron out like the technical quirks of online events. But yeah, if you've been wondering what's up with that, I'm working on it. Do not worry about it. But if you have suggestions, I accept those. Moving on to campaigns, I've been doing some work for the planning for the November projects, which includes Cultural Diversity Week on the 2nd week of November, and 5 Days of Cheer on the 4th week of November. In the agenda, there's a point where I will kind of give you a quick gist of the events, just to see if you have any ideas or what you think about the current event lineup. A reminder from what I said during orientation, Halloween Spooktacular is starting tomorrow. The Facebook group where you can find all the events can be found just by putting Halloween Spooktacular in the search bar. But basically on Monday, we have a magic show that includes mind reading and other things. It's happening at the Fox and Crow at 7 p.m. However, you can also access it online. So be sure to tell your friends. We paid quite a bit for the magician, so it would be great if a lot of students were able to enjoy that. On Tuesday, we have a murder mystery party happening at the Fox and Crow at 6:30 p.m. If you want to participate, you have to sign up because I'm currently writing the scripts and the characters, and I'm getting that ready for everybody. Then on Wednesday, we have our spooky trivia happening at 10 p.m. right after our trivia, the Fox and Crow. So if you couldn't make it to one, you can make it to the other one. Thursday, we have a jack-o'-lantern carving competition at 6:30 in Macmillan Hall. It's a hybrid event because if you cannot make it, you can still send a picture of your pumpkin and will be considered for a cash prize. We'll have a horror movie cinema night that same Thursday at 10 p.m. at the Fox and Crow. And then on Friday, if you could please attend this event, because I'm really looking forward to it, is the Halloween fashion show. It is happening in Macmillan at 6 p.m. I'm working with Residence because Residence is having a mini fashion show and they're gonna move their mini fashionistas from Residence to Macmillan. The way it works is that there'll be a catwalk, you can walk with your costume or send a picture of you wearing the costume and you'll be entered into a contest to win a $100 prize. We're gonna give prizes to best individual costume, best couples costume, and best group costume. And there I just kind of like wrote down what I did for these events, book venues, hired artists, which were Wayne Hoffman and Monsters of Shock, both a bunch of snacks and drinks. I got together some trick or treat bags and in general, just like the organization of the events. Okay, finally we moved to others and I hope you love the sound of my voice because this has been going for a while. So we had the education faculty social dinner hosted by the president. It was lasagna, delicious, love that. Then I'm part of the joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee. I'm the student rep on campus. Basically, we meet and they kind of give me the tea on what type of accidents and dangers you can find on campus. Things such as gas leaks or broken glasses or students who—
Jose, just in the interest of time, we do have a lot of other things on our agenda. Maybe just hit some overviews of the extra, just because there is a significant amount still on the agenda there.
I'll go quickly then. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Jose.
Yeah, I mean, the scholarship committee, I approve scholarships, I look over them. We have our executive meetings. I represented the UPEISU in the volunteer fair. I gave a one-day training to the body program coordinator, interviews Fox and Crow trivia host, volume 18 training, and that's about it. The only important thing was that for the NSARS vigil, I provided candles, infographics for mental health, and disposable masks.
Great, thank you very much for wrapping that up so quickly. Are there any questions for Jose on his report at this time? Questions to be indicated using the raise hand function. Final chance for questions. Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you very much for your report, Jose.
Okay, students attend the event. Halloween will be exciting.
Great, thank you very much, Jose. Now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda for this evening, which is the Vice President Finance Administration's report. The floor is yours, Ayuma Kim.
Did you send it to my email? No, that's okay. Just a second, sorry, just sharing the screen. There you go. So hi everyone, this is just going to be my report for the past couple of weeks, and I have divided this report into two parts, the VP Finance portfolio and the general things that we all did as executive. So first of all, I met with the funding committee and we approved all the clubs that applied for funding. Also the budget committee alongside Melissa and Brian. So we went over to amend the budget or just things that needed to be changed at this time. I also met with Melissa to briefly go over the financial statements, the balance sheets, which I'll be presenting in the next council meeting, just basically to see where we are at now with losses and gains and all of those good stuff. Also, I tried to do budget consultation, but apparently most of the councillors don't know how all this money had been spent, so it would be hard for them to determine. So I would explain it tonight, and probably we could do it again. Also, Fox and Crow hiring. I sat on the Fox and Crow hiring board for our new staffs, and the results were passed by the executive team. Also, the Campus Trust Finance Committee. So apart from me being a trustee on the board, I am also a part of a committee, the Finance Committee. So what we did was approve the invoices. Everyone had a month to do. Also, we approved the Finance Committee strategic plan, basically what we want to follow this year. In addition to that, we had the Campus Trust Board of Trustee meeting. So here we did a governance review. Basically, we wanted to outsource the person that would review our policies for us, but instead we decided to just go with the person that does it for us currently because it's cheaper. Also making UPEISU a settler because a previous school left, so UPEISU would currently be the settler. Also, we did the strategic plan review for this year. Also had supplies interview with the food and nutrition department. So as I said in the first council meeting, Jennifer Taylor from the food and nutrition department reached out to us about having experiential ed for her students. So having them, do analysis of students' need and all of those things. So in an attempt to do that, I had an interview with a student from Food and Art department to just discuss the operation of the supplies during COVID-19, also supplies restock, and also volunteers prep. So what I want to do this year is, put all the, having students do the restocking, going to the store with Carl and all of those things, instead of it just being me. Also the service awareness campaign, as I said yesterday, planning has begun. First of all, we'll be going with the Panther Patrol. Most of it will be done online through Q&A, having mini booths and just questions that students could receive prizes from. Also miscellaneous others, education, faculty, social events with other exec members, executive committee, residence bag giveaway, interview with the cadre. So just discussing about the farmers market program, how it's going, how we were able to put that together, staff training and extraordinary council meeting. Also we met with Will McGuigan. Brian already explained that. And that's it from me.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the Vice President of Finance and Administration? Any questions? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you very much for your report, Yumikin. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda for this evening, which is the Senate report. I would open the floor to whichever Senate rep will be giving tonight's report.
Hello. Oh, 1 second to get here. Okay, so I'm Jennifer and this is Maggie. So we're roommates. So we're just kind of doing this together. We wrote it together. We went to the meeting together. And I will just let everyone know, this was our first time on a Senate meeting. So we just kind of sat back and listened, kind of took it all in. We weren't as we didn't really speak up a lot just because it is, if you've ever been
Of everything.
Yeah, it was
It's
very
intimidating.
intense. So we're just gonna give a little bit about the meeting. And Brian or Malik, if you guys have anything to add that we missed, just feel free to say it after, okay?
Okay, so we met with the Senate on Friday, October 23rd. We discussed convocation and decided that May 14th is going to be the date for ABC students, and then May 26th, 27th, and 28th will be the dates for all the other faculties. And this year's convocation will be for the 2019-2020 academic year, in addition to the 2020-2021 academic year. A lot of 20s. And we also decided that the courses for the radiation program have been renamed. So instead of starting with QEH, they start with RAD for radiation. And then we also discussed a possible survey to be sent out to students for feedback regarding the online learning situation.
Yeah, and that'll be done through like your own faculty, like the sciences, and they're still talk, but they're going to think about getting some feedback from students.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much for your folks' report. Are there any questions for the Senate reps at this time? Or did the VPACs or the president wish to chime in with any additional information? I see Brian, floor is yours.
Hello, I didn't have like any comments to add, just to say that it was really good. And that it's going to get better as the meetings happen. It can be quite challenging the first ones, but both Jennifer and Maggie did wonderful.
Great, thank you very much. I see the education rep, Sam.
Yeah, I just had a quick inquiry about the, you mentioned that the convocation that will occur in May will include the 1920 graduation year and the 20 and 21 graduation years. So does that mean that the ceremonies will be doubly long, and that the graduates from the previous year will be allowed to walk the stage if there is the opportunity to walk the stage?
So they didn't really talk much about the format, more so just set a strict date so that we would have that figured out in the foreseeable future. I don't know if Brian or Malik want to speak more to that, because
I see Malik.
So yeah, I can answer a little bit of that. I know Brian would have more information since he sits on the convocation committee, but from my understanding sitting on Senate so far is that so you know how, let's say if it happens on a Monday, there would be some in the morning and then some in the evening. They would kind of do that. So like, let's say there would be convocations at 10 and then another convocation at like 2. So there would be more than one in a day, since there's also the limitation on numbers, right? Like you still have COVID going on and you can't have 1,000 people at a convocation. So it's definitely going to be split up somehow. And I'm sure Brian would have more info on that. And also want to say, good job, Maggie.
Brian, did you wish to add to this?
For sure, I can speak to that. Thank you for that question, Sam. That was actually something really important to bring forward. As of now, the 2019-2020 convocation has not happened. That's something the university is being pretty clear of. There was a celebration, but they postponed convocation. The plan right now is to have 2019-2020 and 2020-2021. This is the convocation we're trying to plan more. So usually it would be maybe one day more in terms of convocation. And when we'll be having the process and walking the stage and everything, it's still being planned out. As of now, the committee is only trying to figure out which date would work best, because we want to give time, for example, for people that have already graduated, if they're in a different country or their family want to be able to make it here, to have some leeway to be able to make it here for the ceremony. But yes, right now we're thinking of 2019-2020 and 2020-2021 for a process of convocation.
Did that answer your question, Sam, or did you want to follow up with that?
Yes, that I feel like that answers the question adequately. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for your question. Are there any additional questions for the Senate representatives on their report? Seeing no hands, we will move on. The next item on the agenda for this evening is the Board of Governors report. I will open the floor to the Board of Governors representative for their report.
No, hello everyone. This time I don't have any comments to do, so it's all right, going super.
Okay. Brian, did you wish to make any comment on the Board of Governors meeting that just occurred?
For sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so Board of Governors met once since the last time we had council. Most of the discussion was the work that was done in the committee. So as I said before, we had foreign and external relations about the scholarships that were presented. Also, we had an update on the buildings that were happened. We discussed the new residents and the progress that was done. There was footage of camera footage, drone footage presented of the buildings. We also discussed the St. Peter's campus that's being built for climate change and adaptation. So that also was presented. As well, we discussed at the network revitalization project about the progress until there, what issues we ran into for that and how much time it's going to take further. So not a lot of details was brought forward, for example, to be discussed on board. Most of it was discussed and decided on during the subcommittees, which I discussed earlier in my report, and was mostly voted on during the Board of Governors meeting. So that would be that.
Great, thank you very much for your report. Are there any questions for Brian on his report of Board of Governors? Any questions? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you very much for that report, Brian. We're now on to item 6 on our agenda for this evening, which is policy updates. At this point, I will give the floor to the VPACs to present the policy changes, and I will share the ability to share screen.
Okay, can you folks see my screen?
Yes, they can see your screen.
So two policies that I want to talk about today. The first one was a policy. So in our external policies, so these are the policies that we advocate on to either the university or external stakeholders.
Malik, your audio is becoming a little jumbled. Can you speak a little closer to your microphone, please?
So our external policies are on a 3-year ratification basis. So every 3 years, our policies need to be updated. With regards to our Indigenous students, there was a policy written in 2017 about Indigenous students, and in short, it recommended that the government of PEI help create a fund to help the university further the Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner's calls to action about the education section. So it's basically a recommendation that would give government money, provincial government money to the university to help indigenization on campus, basically. However, a lot of the info in that report and the data in that report and the report itself is very outdated. So even though we have a 3-year rotation, so it would be the rotation to update that policy this year, we have started updating it, the PRC&I. However, looking at it again in hindsight right now, I think that it should be either not re-ratified, so eliminated, since most of the asks in it tackle into this, or rewritten to have something else. So we're working on that. So that's the update for this one. Now this one is another one that the PRC&I wrote from scratch. So it's a new policy about Indigenous students to advocate on. And that was because Indigenous students are a priority for us this year. So in creating this policy, we have to acknowledge that we are not Indigenous students, the PRC&I. So we wanted to make sure that we are doing extensive consultations with the Indigenous community on campus and off campus to see what issues Indigenous students face and what they want to see be the solutions. So we contacted the Native Council of PEI. We met with the education person at the Mi'kmaq Confederacy of PEI, the education person from the Lennox Island Band. We met with 3 Indigenous professors. We reached out to Indigenous students and other Indigenous persons, as well as we reached out to other Indigenous bodies and either hadn't gotten a response back or just shared emails in creating this policy, and then wrote down the notes and the asks in this policy as a summary of everything that was brought up in those meetings, and circulated the policy back for feedback to all of those persons again to make sure that we encompassed what they wanted us to bring to the university and bring to the province. So this is going to be on our lobby doc this year, and I'll just walk you folks through it. So a principle in a policy that we write is basically the best case scenario. It's the ideal situation that we want to see. And we want to see UPEI and PEI government taking progressive action towards reconciliation, Indigenous student supports, representation, and access to resources in the UPEI community. And our concern is that there are insufficient resources towards decolonization and reconciliation at UPEI currently. So our recommendation is that UPEI and the government of PEI collaborate to provide more resources and accommodations to the Indigenous community on campus and work towards reconciliation and the decolonization of UPEI. So a lot of this was based on what we already have, or what the university has in its 2018 to 2023 strategic plan. And that is that UPEI is committed to advancing reconciliation through higher education, and it cites indigenization as a fundamental principle in decision-making and resource allocation. And that's where we're going to tie in. And this mentions the folks that we consulted with. So this policy has 4 asks. The first one is amplifying Indigenous voices and representation by increasing Indigenous leadership, and a little, detail about that is that to take meaningful steps towards reconciliation, it's essential to amplify Indigenous voices. And 71% of universities across Canada are working to include and increase Indigenous representation within their leadership and government structures. So the UPEISU is recommending that UPEI include Indigenous persons in decision-making positions. The second one is expanding Indigenous student resources through allocating more funds for Indigenous student services with support from the government of PEI. So across Canada, we've seen it a common theme this year that governments are working with either Indigenous communities or Indigenous institutions or post-secondary institutions to fund and sponsor resources for Indigenous communities. So some examples are that in Alberta, the government as well as Alberta's post-secondary institutions are collaborating to indigenize their campuses. And in Ontario, the government is investing in Indigenous student initiatives, and same thing in Southern Ontario, where post-secondary institutions are partnering with First Nations to promote opportunities for First Nation students. So one resource that we do have at UPEI is the Mawiomi Center, which has been a fundamental resource for our Indigenous student community, and that's including students, faculty, and staff. And in this past summer, the Mawiomi Center was not operating due to a lack in staffing, and there was no one brought into that position for that period of time. So we are recommending that UPEI, alongside the government, invest into expanding the Mawiomi Center, as well as any and other Indigenous student services. And that's where the past policy can come into play, is the creation of that fund to support such initiatives. The third ask is increasing the incorporation of Indigenous knowledge and art on campus. And it's important that all UPEI students graduate having been exposed to Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous art. And that's also something that was highlighted in UPEI's strategic plan, is that acknowledging Indigenous knowledge and ways of knowing and integrating those throughout the curriculum is important. And it was an action item. So the SU is recommending that UPEI incorporate aspects of Indigenous knowledge and history into all UPEI university studies courses. So these are courses that are mandatory for graduation. You would have to take one of those, or the equivalent of those courses moving forward. And also that the university invest into more Indigenous art on campus. The fourth and last one is outreach to Indigenous communities. Something that was brought up during our consultation meetings a lot is that Indigenous students don't see themselves represented sufficiently at UPEI. So, and that is one barrier for Indigenous students to access post-secondary education. So another statistic is that 69% of Canadian universities recruit Indigenous students through reaching out to prospective Indigenous students and inform them of the services, programs, and supports available to them on campus. And that's something that was also mentioned in UPEI strategic plan, that they want to enhance Indigenous student participation and achievement through partnerships, development of new recruitment strategies, and creation of scholarships and supports for Indigenous students. So our UPEISU recommendation is that there be an Indigenous Student Ambassador Program at the Maui Center that the university would fund that performs community outreach and acts as a liaison between UPEI and Indigenous communities. And that is it, folks.
Thank you very much for that, Malik. From that, would you like a motion to arise?
Sure, I would like to raise a motion to ratify this policy into our external policy book.
Thank you very much for your motion. Can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Carrie Cruz. Malik, would you like to speak to that motion?
I want to thank all the folks that helped us with the consultations. And yeah, this is something that's very important that us and the university and the government should be working towards.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to that motion? I see Education Representative Sam.
Yeah, I just had a quick inquiry about what the steps towards indigenizing, sorry, I'll turn on the start video. What recommendations were made to quote indigenize curriculum and courses on at UPEI? What kind of changes would we see?
So sorry, just to catch again on your question, is it what are the recommendations for indigenizing curriculum, or what was actually already done?
Let's touch on both, actually. I'd be curious to know what's been already done and then what would be further suggested.
Okay, so something that I would reference that would highlight what is already done by the university in terms of indigenization is President Alla's letter that went out on Treaty Day, October 1st. He highlights in it everything that UPI has already done for the Indigenous community. And something he mentions in there is the hiring of 3 Indigenous scholars. So 3 Indigenous scholars were hired. I know that 2 of them are in the Faculty of Education. I can't remember where the 3rd Indigenous scholar is, but that's one step that was taken towards reconciliation and adding Indigenous knowledge into the curriculum. I will speak of personal experience. I know that in my UPEI 102 class, when I was in first year, we had a section dedicated to learning about residential schools and Indigenous peoples of Canada. I know that there also have been courses at UPEI, such as Aboriginal studies and other courses that tackle Indigenous knowledge. However, I don't know if there was anything, I don't know of anything that is formally put to incorporate into the curriculum that all university students, all UPEI students would go through. So all of these courses are courses that you would sign up for. So if you don't sign up for, as let's say you're a science student and you're not interested into signing up for like an arts elective, you wouldn't have to take that course. Whereas if you put content into a UPEI course that everyone has to take. And I know one suggestion that was brought up at one of our consultations was create one of these UPEI courses to only cover Indigenous knowledge. So have a complete course dedicated to that was one way to move forward. I think that's the answer I have. I don't know if that answers your question.
For the most part, yeah. I guess just even with the UPEI 100 level classes, this may have changed when I was since I've been in first year, but you only had to take one of them to graduate. So if we incorporated such a class if we incorporated an Indigenous studies class into that UPEI 100 level, there's still that option for students not to take that course. The other option I could see is incorporating Indigenous knowledge into all of the UPEI 100 level courses. So I'm curious as to know what this policy would seek to address in that field.
So Thank you for that question. Something I mentioned in that area here, and I'll clarify a little bit about that conversation. In one of our APCC meetings, so going back to something else, one of our Senate committee meetings, we talked about our UPEI courses. And there was a question brought up as to whether these courses are still relevant or not moving forward, and if every student needs to take one of those or not. And there is research being done, I believe now by the registrar's office into what are other universities doing with like university studies, or are there base courses that are university studies like that? And how can we change those UPEI courses that are mandatory for graduation for everyone to basically make them better for our campus community? And that's why when writing this policy, these consultations were prior to that APCC meeting. So when writing this policy, I made sure to write down that incorporate an aspect of Indigenous knowledge into either all of the university studies courses. So even though not all of them are mandatory, but you have to take one of them, so an aspect of it would be in all of them, or their equivalent moving forward. And that's something that like, that's why I put it there, is whatever it is the equivalent that you need to take to graduate, something should be in like whatever base there is moving forward. And that's why we also started this with that. It's important that all UPI students graduate having been exposed to Indigenous knowledge and art. So that's on the like behind the scenes part of this policy. So I made sure to include that in the wording, and I will also make sure to bring up during the meeting when we advocate this. I hope that's sufficient, but if in your point of view that is not, I would love to hear any recommendations that you might have on how we can tackle this better.
For the time being, we can, I feel like once this, once all the details start to get ironed out, we could look back on it, certainly.
Sure. So folks, my recommendation on this, but just for a point of knowledge for all counselors, should anyone feel that there need to be changes made to a policy as it's being presented, folks are able to move amendments to change that policy as it exists. The other option with policies such as this is that it could be moved to a committee. So if folks felt that this policy was incomplete as it currently stands, it could be moved to governance committee for review. We are now back to discussion on the motion, which is approval of this policy as it is to the UPEISU's external policy handbook. Any further discussion on this policy? I see the VPSL.
Yep. Hello. So it's not much of discussion, but I think I do agree with the point the education rep did in terms of like, if we put that course as a separate course from UPA 101, 102, 103, I feel like personally students would pick the other three because they're relatively easier. Like I know, like in my first year, one of them was like how to ask a question 101.
Hey, I'm sorry, Jose. Points of information. I'm addressing myself to the chair.
Yes, Nelly, floor is yours.
Yeah, so we just finished talking about the policy updates, and I was just wondering if I wanted to move a motion about a policy that we did not talk about. Would I have used that as an opportunity, or should I wait?
Yes,
Yeah?
Thank you, Nelly.
Yeah,
Thank you
you
for your
can.
question. We are actually currently still on discussion of this exact policy. So we're still waiting to a vote to occur on it. Jose is speaking to this policy. Should you wish to speak to another policy, I will open the floor to you after voting has finished on this policy.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. Jose, the floor is yours.
So I guess what I feel like is like it would be better to kind of introduce this knowledge about Indigenous studies in our free available course, so that all three of the courses start kind of the same way, and then they can deviate into their own specific fields. Just because I feel like students personally will go for the easier course, and that's just like my honest opinion.
Thank you very much. Did you wish to respond to that, Malik?
Yes, please. So just for clarification, that the policy as reads right now is to incorporate an aspect of Indigenous knowledge into all of those courses as of right now. However, there was during the consultation a mention that they would also like to see another course that is just dedicated to Indigenous knowledge while including it in all the other ones. So just for clarification.
Great, thank you very much. Any additional discussion on the policy? A final opportunity for any discussion on this policy. Seeing none, we will move to a vote on approval of this policy. That poll is now open. All in favor of approval, all opposed, and anyone who wishes to abstain. Malik, as you are currently a co-host, you do not have the ability to vote on Zoom. You can vote orally if you'd like.
I'd like to vote in favor.
Thank you very much. I see that someone wishes to abstain. Could you please indicate your name in the chat box to let me know that you wish to abstain? Okay, folks, that motion has carried.
Could I ask a point of information real quick?
Yes.
Is there any way we could see how various candidates or counselors or executive members voted with this?
I have been trying to figure out a way to have that be more clear, Sam. At this point, all we can see is the polling results, unless someone is aware of a way to see the individual votes.
Okay, thank you.
In general, council meetings, it would be an open process, so everyone would be able to see how other folks had voted.
Ashley?
Yes, Jose?
I've used the Zoom account quite a bit for events and stuff like that. I also look into the possibility of the current Zoom account that we have being able to have that feature. Not this one and not even the other paid Zoom type of packets. They don't include an option where you can see the votes individually.
Okay, thank you very much for the information, Jose. So that motion has carried. We will now move on to our next agenda item. At this point, I would open the floor to Nellie, should you wish to address another policy issue.
Yes. All right. Give me a few seconds, please. I'm just looking at the policy right now. All right. I'd like to move a motion to have the governance committee take a look at the international student fee policy for the co-op student. 1 second, let me take a look at the exact policy name. All right, so I'd like to move a motion to have the governance committee have a look at the UPEI international fee policy 3.2.1.2 and possibly have it changed.
Thank you very much for your, sorry, thank you very much.
International students to not pay international, in order for international students in the co-op program to not pay international fees during a work term, when they have a work term, yeah.
Thank you. Sure. I can't, sorry, Malik, I can't take a point of information until I've had the motion seconded. Thank you for your motion. Nellie, can I get a seconder for this motion? I see the first year representative as our seconder. Thank you very much. Point of information to Malik, floor is yours.
Sorry, it's unrelated, but how do I give you the host again?
I can do that. Thank you. That's done. Thank you for your motion, Nellie. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, so international students are required to pay, international students in the co-op program are required to pay the international student fees while on the work term. I think that is unfair because in order to be a part of the co-op program, you already have to pay. Actually, I think that would be a conflict of interest because I'm in the co-op program. So I probably shouldn't talk about this, right?
You're able to share your experience as a part of the co-op program, and you're able to move that motion to have governance review the policy. However, it would be inappropriate for you to be the one doing the actual review of the policy.
All right. And I believe it is unfair because in order to be part of the co-op program, students have to pay a certain amount. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for your discussion on that. Would anyone
Point of
else like to?
information, please, Chair.
Yes, first year representative.
How much is the fee?
Give me a second.
I see the education rep, Samuel.
I'm gonna wait until after Adam gets his answer, but I was just wanting a point of information as well.
Okay, thank you.
Currently, I forgot how much I paid actually, but I'm looking online. Is there any other co-op student in here that remembers how much they paid to be a part of the program?
Ayumkin wants to add.
Sure, Yumikin, the floor is yours to answer that specific question.
So I think I paid around $700 for my acceptance fee, and the tuition when you're taking your walk-in is around $5,000 without taking any costs. So you just pay $5,000 for walk, and you don't take any costs.
Sorry, I had trouble hearing that. Could you speak closer to the mic?
Sure. So the acceptance fee is around $700, and you pay $5,000, around $5,000 during your work term as international fee without taking any cost. So you just have to work, but yet you have to pay the university $5,000.
Thank you for that response, Yumikin. Adam, does that adequately answer your question?
I think so. So the fee is $7,000.
$700, I believe.
Yeah, sorry,
and then
700.
you still have to pay tuition.
Yes, of
on
course.
top.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see the education rep, Sam.
Yes, sorry, let me start my video again. Could you explain to those that may not be familiar with the co-op placement what exactly that would entail?
Nellie, the floor would be yours to respond.
Yeah, perfect. So the cooperative education program at UPEI is a program that helps students combine what they have learned at school, during like their courses, and basically help them apply in the real world. So they help you find jobs. And typically you have to take 3 work terms, and those work terms can be taken during fall, during summer, whenever you decide. And that's what the co-op, that's it. Is there anything else you'd like to know about what the co-op, about what the co-op program is and what they do?
So it's in a way a bit of an internship, from my understanding.
Yes, exactly. So
okay.
Yeah, they help you get they basically help students build their resumes. They help students work on their cover letters. They help them work on their interviews, etc. And they also help you look for jobs, and they connect you with employers on the island and basically across the maritime. Yeah.
Okay, I feel that answers it quite well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I have a speakers list going now, folks. There are a number of folks who wish to speak on this. Tasneef, you were the next person to indicate that you wish to speak. Is that still true?
Yes, I just wanted to add that you have to pay an additional $320 for a course fee because you have to take a non-credit course for co-op that teaches you how to make your resumes, then teaches you how to give interviews. So besides the $778 and the international fees, you have to pay an addition of $320. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much. Next, I see Carrie Cruz.
Yes, hi. Nellie, can you confirm with me? We might have already said this, but this internship is unpaid, correct?
It's not unpaid.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just I was confused. So never mind.
I mean,
Thank you,
it
Carrie.
depends on the internship, right? It will depend on the internship, but typically most of the internships are paid.
Yeah, so I was wondering because I know that the nutrition students do unpaid internships.
Yes, so I'll speak to this as information for folks. The UPEI through the co-op program requires students to be paid a minimum of minimum wage for their hours. Next on the speakers list, I see Ala, the math and computational science rep.
I just have a question. Just in case you know, has the international fee always been there, or was it recently added?
It has always been there. I'm currently looking at the policy. So it was created in March 2001, and apparently it is reviewed every 5 years. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So Nellie, possibly as a clarification, are you asking for the UPEISU to review? Is this policy a university policy or a UPEISU policy?
It's a university policy, and I would like to know if the governance committee can potentially do something about it, if it can,
Sure. So yeah, I'll just offer some clarity on that. You're technically asking the governance committee to create a policy on the UPEISU's stance on the co-op for international students, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Deputy Chair, can you let me know what we have on wording for this policy?
Yeah, hi, I'm currently editing the wording.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll get back to you on that. I'll send it to you in a private chat.
Okay.
Is open on this motion?
What, sorry, Malik?
Is debate still open on this motion?
Yes, debate is still open on this motion.
Okay. I want to say I'm not 100% sure, and for sure, Ashley, you would know more than I do. I don't know if governance committee would be the best committee to send this to, but I do know that maybe the concern can go to possibly AXCOM as an advocacy ask.
That is a good suggestion. Technically, Arts Representative Foyette is within her right to ask Governance Committee to draft a new policy. However, I would state that seeing as it is kind of a new concept on this policy, that possibly NIFT Committee, New Initiatives and Future Directions, might be the correct committee for this.
All right.
So I will open the floor to Nellie. Would it be okay that we moved this policy to consideration for the NIFT committee?
Yes, please.
Okay, so can you reread the motion as is intended?
All right. I would like to actually.
Basically, what I'm asking for is for you to highlight that you would like the NIFT committee to investigate the feasibility of recommending the removal of the international co-op fee from the UPEI co-op program.
All right. I'd like the NIFT committee. I'm a bit stressed right now. All right.
It's okay,
so
you're doing
at
great.
I'm actually wondering why I decided to move and watch him tonight. I should have just watched y'all do like.
No, it's great. It's great to have involvement. You're doing great. We're going to get through it. You would like the NIF committee to investigate the feasibility.
I would like the NIF committee to investigate the
feasibility,
yeah,
of recommending the removal of the international fees from the UPEI co-op program.
The international fee from the UPEI co-op program.
That is great. Thank you very much for your motion.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to take that as an amendment to the original motion, and I'm going to consider it a friendly amendment. So now we're just back to discussion on the motion. Alla, I see your hand is still up. Did you have further discussion on this motion?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. The poll is open now. All in favor, all opposed, and those who wish to abstain. If you were actively a co-op student at this moment, abstaining would be wise. That motion has carried. I noticed that one person would like to abstain. If you would like your abstention noted, please indicate so in the chat box.
Sorry, point of information.
Yes.
As the ombudsperson, would I just abstain or just not have an input?
Yeah, so for ombudsperson, you actually don't have a vote on any of the motions.
All right, so I just don't press on any of the choices.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to congratulate our arts rep, Nellie, for moving her first motion. It was great. Thank you very much. We'll now move back to the agenda for this evening. Next on the agenda is item number 7, event updates, and I believe that is Jose.
Do you want camera?
Jose, floor is yours.
Yes. Oof, I wish that I could see the agenda right now.
Here, let me share it for you.
Okay, thank you.
There is your agenda.
Awesome. So basically, I'll go through this fairly quickly. I just wanted some feedback from students at large on some of the events that already happened or are going to happen. So for example, for the Master Student Chef, the group has 277 students and they had 22 submissions. In my portfolio, I had planned to make like one monthly competition from now until the end of my term. There's one that will be a sound battle, an art battle, a writing contest, and a talent show. I just wanted to get some feedback from you guys to see if you think it's maybe a good initiative to keep moving forward with, or if you had different opinions about it. So it's just kind of like to see what everybody's feeling.
I see. Okay, Cruz.
So you're just asking our opinions on having a monthly competition?
Yeah, on whether it's a good idea to have that going on for the rest of the year. Just because as one of our business reps, Sam, mentioned yesterday when they asked where my budget was going, that monthly competitions is a big part of where my budget is going since there's no wet price. And I just wanted to hear whether students thought it was a good idea to move forward with this competitions.
Okay, I'll give you my opinion. I think the reason why this is a good idea and worthy of putting more budget into is because you are offering cash prizes that are larger. So I do think that it is helpful to students. That's my input.
Thank you, Claire. Any additional folks wish to give input to Jose?
I feel it might be worthwhile. Oh, Charlotte, let me turn on my camera. I feel it might be worthwhile to inform students that this would be the alternative to the wet dry events. I've heard from a number of students that they were starting to question about the student union fees, especially considering the loss of wet dry events and that it was such a significant what's the word I'm looking for? It was a significant chunk of the student union fees that was used. So I think highlighting that for students might be of value.
Okay, I'm noting that down. Thank you, Sam.
Input. Sam, anyone else who wishes to speak to this, please use the raise hand function. I see Sam McLean.
I know you said the Master Chef was going really well. It would probably, I really like the idea of doing that in the cash prizes. I agree with Carrie that the cash prizes would be really appealing to students in this time. But something to keep an eye on would be good to see if there's just retention with people actively engaging in it. But I really like the idea.
Thank you, Sam. Any additional feedback for the VPSA? Seeing none, back to you, Jose. Did you have anything else on event updates?
I guess I'll move just to point B. Yeah, I think that you're right in terms of like a big difference in the budget.
Jose, just as a heads up, your audio is becoming a little jumbled. Can you come a little closer to the microphone, please?
Sorry. Basically, the main difference right now in the budget is that since there are no wet dries, that's why the student union is having more like an event a week at least. There's way more events happening than ever. Usually, the BPSL would only have a couple campaigns in the wet dries, and that's why there's more events happening. But I think it's a good idea to definitely let students know that that's how the budget is working. As for retention, I think that's also a good point that raised. I would definitely appreciate it if all of you as counselors, if I mentioned yesterday, would share all of this in your reports and stuff, or to cite the stuff, because the more students participate. I'll see how the art battle competition goes. Since I've already pretty much worked on that to the full extent. And then depending on how that one goes and the cooking competition went, I'll review whether it's good to have these competitions for the winter semester. But thank you everybody for the feedback. Point B was the R battle. The only things that I wanted to ask about that was I got together with the executive team and we were discussing whether we could give out a topic for the art battle itself. That is just because art is really broad, but also we want to give everybody a chance to express themselves in whatever way they want. But also we don't want them to have no grounding of a topic of where to start. And also we have to account for the fact that hopefully there won't be any art submissions that promote things like hate or discrimination. But yeah, I just wanted to ask on the topic of if you kids thought that we needed a topic or no topic. If that makes sense.
I see the Buds person.
Yes, I'd like to raise a point of order about the previous motion that was just passed.
Okay, thank you. Floor is yours.
Yes, so I realized that the CS representative, and I was just making sure, that is part of the co-op program, and he voted a yes, and I would like to know if he could change his vote, I guess, to an abstain.
Thank you very much for raising that. I will ask Ala, would you be comfortable moving your vote from a in favor to abstention?
Yes.
Would you like your abstention recorded?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the ombudsperson.
Thank you.
Jose, the floor is yours.
Yep. So going back to the point, it's basically the two topics that we narrowed down to was self-expression is one topic, or what is art for you was the second topic. You as counselors believe that will be enough grounding for students to know where to begin their art piece, or do you think that's too vague, or what are your opinions as students?
I'm sorry, Jose, once again, we're getting hard to hear your vocals. The mic's a little jumbled.
Yeah, basically what I asked was that the two topics that we narrowed the competition down to was self-expression or what art means to you. I'm just kind of asking at large whether folks think that's kind of like enough of a grounding for students to be able to start a project on, but also it gives no limitations to how students would like to express themselves, if that makes sense. Or if anybody has a better topic, you can also give me some feedback on that.
Floor is open to councilors to provide feedback on this initiative.
Can I just say what? Can I just talk?
Sure. Floor is yours, Chioma.
Okay. Yeah, I think what is art to you is a great topic for the art part too. So I would pick the art. What is art to you for like as a topic instead of just having an open or no topic party. So just narrowing it down.
Awesome. Yay.
Is there any additional feedback for the UPSI on this? Seeing none, Jose, you may move on.
Okay, I'll move to the other two more quickly. So basically, for November, the main two campaigns or events that I have going on, aside from the art competition, is on the second week of November, we have cultural diversity campaign. This year, council is fairly diverse. So if any of you would like to participate or collaborate or volunteer or give me some ideas, it would be great. We don't have to do it right now, but I'll give you a quick list of the event, and then want to connect with me after the meeting and stuff, just send me an email or a message or something. The events right now are first an all-star foreign movie marathon, then world music and folk-tales by folks, which basically a fucking pro, just like listening to different types of music and people telling folk tales about their home countries. And we have an intersectionality panel where people of different countries will down and people get questions. And then we'll have an all around the globe talent show. That's for Cultural Diversity Week. And then for the fourth week of November, we have um, a hot chocolate and tree decorating night. The tree will be a wishing tree, and students get to write wishes on it. They can also be material wishes, and if they are under a certain threshold attached to it, the student union last year went ahead and got them those gifts. But we have to do it and here, and that they can be pretty rough. Then we have a comedy and Christmas caroling night. It will be Christmas carols at Cotton Pro, but also we'll have Wes Baker cooking the talent show. We'll have a holiday theme trivia and gingerbread making competition with houses and people. And then we'll have a UPEISU Christmas dinner hosted at the Cotton Pro, especially because I assume a lot of students, including both um, domestic and international, won't get to go home for the holidays, maybe because of COVID. So those are the events happening. I would just like to hear some feedback on whether folks think those are interesting or fun, or maybe we can do it ahead right now. But again, you no pressure to tell me right now. You can tell me through an email or just message.
Thank you, Jose. I would open it up to discussion for councilors. I see the business rep saying McLean.
Hi, I was just wondering, Jose, I know part of our duty as council is to help volunteer with your events. And I was wondering, would you let us know if you need volunteers or do you want us to be reaching out to you or how does that go?
Yeah. So right now we put out a volunteer form on other social media to students can fill it out to become volunteers. And we've been considering the possibility of having a Facebook group where we include all volunteers. I assume we will include all counselors in that group as well, just because it would be easier to reach out. So yeah, I would definitely let any of you know if I need help for any of the events. It will be mostly with setting up advertisement and stuff like that. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Sam?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, the typical process for that would be for the VPSL to send out an email to counselors letting them know that there's a volunteer opportunity. Any additional feedback for Jose at this time? If not, we will move on. Thank you very much for that. I will now move to point 8 on our agenda for this evening, which is ratification of new societies. Back to Jose for that.
Perfect. So basically, as I mentioned before, we have 2 new groups that have never ratified with the UPEISU before, so I have to bring them to council for approval. So I think actually we will have to make a vote for this.
Yeah, so if you want to go ahead and raise a motion, I can take a seconder and we can move to a vote.
So I want to raise a motion to officially ratify the SID Student Society. To give some more context, it's basically a group of students that belong to the Doctor of Psychology program, and they kind of organize events for them and supports for them. So that's the gist of it.
Okay, did you want to combine the other society with that as well?
Do you think that would be better, or do you think it would be better if like
Generally, we omnibus societies.
Okay, so then the second group is the Autonomous Robotics and Applications group. They are a group of UPA students in the NXT Public Games Challenge. Basically, they're trying to create or construct drones that help with crisis control, especially right now with COVID-19.
Great, thank you very much for that motion. Can I get a seconder for that motion, please? Seconded by Edra. Sam, Jose, would you like to speak to that motion?
Yes, I am really excited to see both of these groups become active on campus and become members of the club's family. Also, I cannot wait to see the drone flying around campus.
Great, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak to that motion? Seeing no one, we will move to a vote. All in favor, all opposed, and anyone who should wish to abstain. Jose, I would request that you send the wording for the names of both societies to the deputy chair.
Yep, I'll be sure to do that.
I see that someone wishes to abstain. Please note who wishes to abstain in the Zoom chat box, please, if you would like it reported. I'm going to go ahead and end poll. That motion has carried. Welcome to the UPEISU. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda for this evening, which is point 9, new budget items. And I believe the floor is going to the VP Finance.
We're just trying to share screen. Sorry, guys.
I'll have to give you permission to do so. Has permission to share screen. You should be able to go ahead.
There you go. So as I said earlier on, I tried to get opinions from councillors regarding the budget, but I decided to like explain it and get your ideas, questions, and opinions on things. It'll be really quick. So the VPSL's portfolio usually have like $55,000 per year for event hosting. We decided to decrease that by 20% because most of the events are now done online. the president's budget line increased by 50%. It moved from $1,000 to $2,000. So the president, depending on year, the president does different things. Like last year, the president started the Buy Co-op program. It could range from different things. It could be a kayaking co-op program. We don't know. The UPEISU also created a budget line for the VPACs. This would include initiatives that they might have, maybe access to technology or anything that they may want to use their money for. I think so. Also, the VP Finance funding budget line has decreased by 45%. So funding could be, that's clubs and society funding, student enrichment funding, and all of those stuff. This is because for the student enrichment funding, not a lot of students are going to be traveling anymore. So we decided to reduce that amount and put it into the student emergency fund. I'm just gonna add this. So sorry. Also, the VP Finance Emergency Fund line increased by 92.5%. Initially, it was $1,500, but we increased it this year to $20,000 because of COVID-19. This could be like situations that students might be facing, emergency situations, maybe flood or your laptop got spoiled and you really need to replace all of those, little things like that. So we increased that budget line. Also, the UPEISU increased the budget for the food bank, as I said yesterday, from $8,000 to $17,000 because we saw the increase in need of the supplies. And also we plan to create a new budget line for updating the UPEISU website. That would be $5,000. These were just some of the things that we put in, and I just wanted to, get your opinion, or if you had any questions or suggestions or ideas, it would be really appreciated.
Thank you for that update. I would now ask if any counselors had any feedback to give on this report.
It's Malik. Can I add to the debate?
Sure.
I just want to say that the VPACs never had any money before, so I'm very grateful for this because now I have $1,000 that I can put somewhere, and that's the $1,000 I referenced yesterday that that will be going towards the access to technology project. So we will be giving this to the library to expand their laptop loaning program. And I want to thank anyone for giving me some money because I didn't have any.
Thank you. VPACs. I see Chioma, Artswap.
Hello. So my question would be about the VP Finance Emergency Fund line that was increased by 92.5%. What exactly is the fund for? And like how you said it's for like emergency with students. So like, do students know that this is available, and what exactly is it about?
Thank you so much for that question. So this is an entirely new line in the budget. It started last year. So it wasn't really like functional as much as we expect it to be this year. So it could be like, for example, as I said, maybe just things that you didn't expect to happen. Maybe your house got flooded, your textbook got stolen, or just little things like that. So it's something that we have to push out this year because we moved funds from the student enrichment funding to this. So we have to push it this year to make students aware of this new funding line that we created.
Thank you, again, just as a point of order, I'd offer that I believe Arts Rep Chioma was asking how students could access this.
Oh, sorry about that. So it will just be through normal funding that we do. We would have a form on the website where students could apply for it, just similar to the clubs and society funding or the student enrichment funding. So there'll just be a form and just answer some questions, and it comes to the VP Finance and it'll be reviewed by the funding committee.
Chioma, does that answer your question?
Yes, I also have another question based on what you just said.
Sure. Go ahead.
So you said there would be a form and that's how people can access this. So Would you do like a social media, like announcing it on social media and stuff? Because like, how would they know that this is available for them to even fill the form?
So every year we usually try to push our services, and that also includes the funds that we provide for clubs and societies. So this would be included in it. So we'll use social media or just sharing it on like different platforms for students to know about this. Is that?
Chioma, did you wish to follow up on that?
No, thank you. That answers my questions.
Thank you. I have a speakers list going. I have 3 folks on it. I have Carrie, I have Sam, business rep, I have Sam, education rep, and now I have Alexander with science. I will open the floor to Carrie first.
Hello. Okay, so I'm wondering about, so does this mean you're, with these new budget items, that there are more, like the budget got bigger, or is it more so like, moving money around? Like, how did we come up, like, how can we afford the emergency fund line? I think that's my question, because I only see the decrease in the VPSL's budget by $10,000. So I'm curious about that.
So we had increase in enrollment, so that's kind of part of it. Even though we had increase in enrollment, we still had a decrease in revenue because Jose couldn't host his big events. So I would say mostly we moved things around. With Jose's budget, we decreased it to allocate to different places, and also with the supplies, we had like events that we didn't go to, so we kind of pushed it to increase the funding line for that. So it was kind of like moving around, as well as we had increase in enrollment. Yes, and also with the funding, we decreased the student enrichment funding. So that's the funding that students usually use for travel and all of those things. So we kind of pushed it to the emergency fund, since people are on the island and with COVID and everything, things may come up. And yeah, so it's both ways.
Okay, thank you so much for answering my question. Overall, this looks really positive, and I'm especially excited about the emergency fund line and the increased budget for the food bank. So great job.
Thank you, Carrie. We'll now move to business rep, Sam.
Hi, I have 2 questions. So I was wondering when the emergency fund line will be available to students, and how they'll be able to apply for that. I'm also really excited about that. That's very important for students right now. And my second question is, I see the decrease of 45% for the finance funding budget. So that is for student enrichment as well as clubs and societies. Is that correct? I know Jose said the retention for clubs is really well this year. So is that decrease going to be affecting the club's funding?
Hello, Sam.
Hi.
Retention is good in terms of like, I wasn't expecting so many clubs to come back because this year is so difficult and people have extra challenges. But clubs did went down. Last year we had 50 registered ratified clubs. Right now we have 30. I'm hoping will increase as the year goes on. So that answers retention for clubs. And then in terms of funding, we set aside a line of funding specifically for the new funding opportunity, which was the startup fund. And I think you can answer for the other funding opportunities for clubs, that they are still roughly the same.
Sorry. Well, yeah, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
Yeah. So we set a budget aside for the startup fund. Melissa and I set it aside. For the other funding opportunities for clubs and societies, those are still
same-ish.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to pull up the budgets.
Okay, so the cut is from the student enrichment.
Please, I'll just a second. Sorry. Also, not to answer something I don't know much about, but I remember that the student enrichment is mainly was cut because It was covering students going to conferences. And because of the nature of travel right now, I think that was the point behind it being decreased a little bit. So we decreased the ABC's budgets, students funding budgets. We also decreased the undergraduate funding, as well as the graduates, and then increased the emergency fund. So those were the three that got decreased: ABC, undergraduate, and graduates funding.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Also, you asked a question about the emergency fund and how it will be. Oh yeah, it will be immediately the budget is approved by council, then we'll just start advertising for it and pushing it on all platforms that we have.
I'll offer a point of order on this. There is no approval happening of the item that is currently in front of us. The approval will be on the amended budget, which will be happening at a future council meeting. I believe the VP Finance has brought this for information purposes only.
Okay, thank you.
Next on my speakers list, I have Education Rep Sam.
Yes, I just had a quick question. You mentioned that the Finance Committee would be the ones determining how the funding, how this emergency fund would be divvied out based on a needs, based on the form submitted by individuals who requested help from that fund. How exactly would that be determined on the committee? Would it be based on by needs? Would it be based on dollar amount? Would it be based on the situation outlined by the students?
So there will be a policy that would have to guide because we have policies for everything, all the funding. I can answer a little bit of that. I can answer that maybe.
Hey folks, can we just stay in order, please? If you'd like to speak, please let me know. It's getting a little.
I'm sorry about that. So there'll be a policy that we follow, just the way we do the student enrichment funding as well as the clubs funding, that would have to follow to determine who gets the funding.
Thank you, Sam. Did you have a follow-up for that?
Yeah, I guess it just makes me a little worried in the sense that the finance committee would essentially be determining who has the most the greatest need with this emergency fund, because with the student enrichment and with the student enrichment fund, I think we're not dealing with as sensitive a topic as with the emergency fund. So I have a little bit of a concern as to how the funding would be divvied out based on that emergency fund.
VP Finance, did you have a response to that?
Maybe something I have to look into to see how we could change that or work with that instead of having it brought to the funding committee, and we definitely bring it to council.
Thank you. Education Rep, did you wish to respond to that?
Nope, I don't have anything to add to that.
Thank you very much. I see Malik asking to be added to the speakers list. Do you wish to speak to something that's just been discussed, relevant on this topic, or a new topic?
Relevant to this.
Okay, I will give the floor to you and then proceed to our speakers list.
Okay, so just about that, Sam, we can also look into, there was a similar fund that happened through the UPEI Student Union earlier when COVID hit. It was, I think, something around like a COVID-19 emergency fund where we did have to, or the previous executive would have been, had to accept applications for limited funding and then provide that funding based on need. So maybe we can see how that was done before and see if we can do something similar.
Thank you, VPSL. Sorry, VPAX. Sam, did you wish to respond to that, just as it was a response to you?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And additionally, we can look into. I might recommend looking into ways to promote and advertise this this fund to students, because this, to be honest, this is the first time I've heard about this emergency fund. So I feel confident saying that a lot of my colleagues in the education program are not familiar with it either.
Thank you, Sam. I'll now move to the next speaker on the speakers list. Alexander, floor is yours.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a preface my question by saying that I find the elements of this budget very positive additions, especially the emergency fund line. I think it's a great idea. But I don't want this. I'm a little bit ignorant as to how the budgeting works, and I don't want this to come off as requesting any decreases. I already noticed that the PPSL budget was already decreased by 20%. But I was just wondering how much of the actual budget that we have now, how much of that actual budget is actually justified, considering that events are virtual, and I mean, I might be ignorant as to how events work, but I will assume the events will be cheaper to organize and set up. So I was just wondering how much of the current budget actually makes sense, basically.
Thank you for your question. I would open the floor to the VPSL to respond.
Yep, I can speak to that. So I definitely agree with the fact that cutting my budget was the most sensible way to go about things, just because obviously I want to say in previous years about 80 to 85% of the budget of BPSL usually goes into wet dries, maybe like 70%. What I'm doing this year depends on every event per se. For example, the online contests, all of them end up costing around 1,500, and I have 4 to 5 of those planned. I'm also looking into buying resources for clubs and societies that they could use in future years moving forward. I'm looking into the possibility of getting kind of like a rental program in terms of like getting stuff like board games and other things for athletics and stuff like balls and like, I don't know, like things that you would use to organize your own events as clubs and societies. So you can do like long games days or board game nights. Just supplies that clubs and societies could use for future years, because I know getting those from athletics can be kind of rough. And then some of my funding went into the club and society startup fund, which was basically giving clubs and societies an opportunity to receive funding, because their funding opportunities usually came from in-person stuff, such as the code checks during wet race and stuff. I would say that if as an executive team and the BP Finance and everybody approached me to decide to cut my budget a little bit more to give it to things like the emergency fund, I would definitely agree with that, considering the needs of students. But yeah, I just wanted to give like a quick overview of where my budget is going exactly. And also to consider that there's a lot more events, campaigns and stuff happening compared to previous years, which is why my budget's going kind of all over the place. Additionally, all of those extra events that the bar manager, Mike Malal, is hosting at the Fox and Grove in collaboration with Holland College, I'm providing from my own funding to those. So yeah, that's just like a quick overview of where my funding is going.
Thank you, Jose. Alexander, did you have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, just to clarify, so does this mean like that budget, the event budget, is not only allocated for events done by the UPEISU, but also by clubs and other societies of UPEI? So that's just wanted to make sure that's basically how it goes.
Can I speak?
Yes, Jose, floor is yours.
Not necessarily. It's more like clubs can apply for funding. However, if they do not, like, I cannot just like give them that money. If they do apply to make an event and stuff like that, we can consider. We have 3 different funding opportunities. If public societies apply for those, most of them so far have been getting the funding they asked for. I know that blood donation team, English, biology, and business societies all asked for funding, and I decided to provide it to them because They cannot do their regular bake sales. They cannot do their cold hydration stations. They cannot do a bunch of stuff they usually do. So I do not pay for Club of Society's events. However, if they do apply for funding, it is almost 100% sure that I tell the VP Finance that I agree if the funding committee were to approve those. Yes.
Okay, thank you, VPSL. Alexander, did you have a follow-up to that?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Akshay on the list of speakers.
Yes, I would like to have a deeper thought on emergency fund. As we have talked earlier, it has been a fund for any unexpected incidents, kind of books get stolen or the flood. So what a student should expect? It is that there is an exact limit that a student will get $1,000, $2,000. There's an exact limit for that, or it just depends on the situation. It depends on the intensity of how is the situation. Can you please discuss on that?
Great, thank you for your question, Akshay. I would open the floor to the VP Finance. Is there a set limit students can access in this amount?
Okay, so what's that? Can you please?
Oh, yes,
let
sorry,
us know?
Akshay, I'll open the floor to the VP Finance for her to answer that question for you.
Okay, okay, perfect, thanks.
Okay, so it will be depending on the amount of funds that the student applies for.
Ayumakin, we're having trouble hearing you.
So it
Yes.
will be depending on the amount the student asks for, and also depending on the
Sorry, I'm not able to hear.
Yeah,
Ashley, you may have to mute your mic because I think there's some background noise.
Okay. Okay, it'll be depending on the amount that students ask for, and also similar to the way funding works. If they are like 5 people applying for that amount, it would kind of be shared amongst. For example, if you have 5 people applying for 1 month and maybe 20 people for the other month, so it just depends on the amount that students apply for and the committee that is deciding as well.
Okay, perfect. Because there are certain times that students expect that if they may get a whole compensation or like that, so there should be a criteria based on that. For that, I asked the question. Okay, all right, thanks. Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions for the VP Finance on this?
No, done from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Education Rep Sam.
Just a quick question. I may have missed what you mentioned about the president's budget line increased by 50%. What was the justification for that again?
So it was initially the president's budget line was supposed to be used for the access to technology program, but we created a new budget line for the VPACs to work on that. So that's why we increased it by 1,000. So we are able to use 1,000 for the access to technology, and also the president has a budget line for initiative that they may have. So that was the reason we tried to increase it.
Sam, did you wish to follow up on that?
Nope, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Brian. Did you wish to speak to that?
Some issues figuring out like the lower hand. Great question, great conversation. We really like the involvement we're getting here. Just like from a speaking perspective, a lot of work has been put into making this table look like this. I would just like to acknowledge the huge amount of work that Ayumakin has put forward, as well as our general manager. Speaking a bit from the president's initiative. So the president has an initiative funding of $1,000 usually to be able to set forward projects. However, in the years, it has been really useful in a way of where we can support the UPEI community. For example, there was one year where the president's initiative was used when the food bank, the Chaplaincy Center's food bank, was flooded and everything was lost. So that funding was used to be able to put that funding forward and be able to repair it and put it in a good state such that students would be able to benefit from it. $1,000 has been added now mostly, and really what we're looking at right now is a good question from Alexander would be how much the VPSL budget is in now. There's still a lot of uncertainty in regards to the winter semester. We would not want, for example, to put all funding for now and not know what is happening in the winter. But what we can guarantee, for example, is like all the funding that is being moved and put forward will be put to the students' benefit at UPEI.
Thank you, Brian. I have Jose on the speakers list.
Yep, I guess something that I did forget to mention when I was answering Alex's question is not only is my budget for kind of planning, hosting the event, hiring the people who might play or not play, and setting up like the platforms and stuff, but also if I think it's pretty noticeable that this year the prices that I'm giving are bigger than previous years. Like in previous years, maybe if you won a competition or came to an event, you would get like a sweater or a swag type of thing. I'm trying to give more cash prizes type of things in order to better support students financially. But I feel like it's important for me to give these prizes for students who still show participation and UPI spirit despite the COVID-19 situation. I feel like that's a reason why kind of assisting events and being active on campus is kind of like a threshold for you to still be able to get kind of funding aid, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's another way in which my budget has, my role as BPSL has changed in terms of like the prices that I'm providing in order to support students at this time based on the budget I have. Because my budget is the biggest, so.
Thank you, Jose. Would anyone else like to speak to this?
Point of information.
Yes, Malik?
Would you like me to move to extend our meeting, or is that too early to determine?
I can't entertain a motion to extend the meeting until exactly 9:05.
Okay.
Thank you. I see Alexander, science rep.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Jose's comment. I just wanted to clarify that I completely agree with the budget that's allocated right now. I was just asking because I'm completely ignorant of how the events are organized, especially right now. And I something I did not say before when he was presenting his portfolio was that I find that the idea of adding prizes to the event is a pretty good thing. I think it incentivizes the activity of students that will normally probably not care about participating. So I think it's a good idea, and I overall agree with it. I was just wondering how really like how expensive could organizing events right now, or like how much of that budget was actually necessary, basically. But they already answered that question. So yeah, just clarifying my position.
Thank you, Alexander. Is there any further discussion on this topic?
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, floor is yours, Nelly.
It's not really related to what we're talking about, but it has to do with Ayomiku's duties, I'll say, kind of. Yeah. So before being a part of the student union, I most likely, I only knew about approximately 50% of the services being offered. And I'll just like to know who is responsible for the communication strategy, or how has the student union been reaching out and spreading awareness about the services they offer?
Thank you for your question, Nelly. I will open the floor to the VP Finance to answer.
Regarding the services that we offer, we've been trying to push it as push the services to students to create awareness. So most of the services that like the Bike Corps, Panther Patrol and all, they all started last year. So there were a lot of things being introduced. So this year, we're trying to push it through social media. That'll be our communications manager, like doing videos or Instagram takeovers to just create awareness. And also, for example, residence drive or things like that to just push most of the services that we currently have.
Thank you.
I see Brian. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick on this one. Awesome point brought forward, Nelly. We really like the idea, for example, of students being able to know about what's happening at the UPEISU, because a lot of things are actually happening at the UPEISU. Checking our social media, you might see, for example, that it's always filled, it's always bulky, there's always something happening. In the summer, I've been working personally with our comms manager to really make sure of what our strategy is and how we want to go forward. You might have seen about a lot of things, but the UPEISU usually had only on the website before or printed or now digital, and being able to be brought forward in forms that can easily be shared with everyone. And we're really working on video material because we're testing what works better and what students are able to know better of. And we've seen results, for example, on services that we've already marketed before, such as the bike co-op, for example. A lot of people didn't know about it, but during the summer, it was booked every single week. We had around 50 people use it over the summer, and every single service we're putting forward in marketing has been working pretty well. And we look forward to the results concerning the other services also.
Thank you, Brian. I see Jose on the speakers list.
Yep. Just adding to that, it is like we are trying our best to use social media to our advantage in terms of reaching out to students to let them know about advocacy efforts, services, or events. However, what comes into play there is what I've been mentioning since yesterday. As executives and the UPEISU have a limited grasp of how many students we can reach. Mainly because not every student who's at UPI follows the UPEISU on Instagram and Facebook. Not everybody follows the four of us on Facebook and Instagram either. So that's where I feel like being a counselor really comes into play in terms of like you guys as spokespeople and as representatives can really help us spread the word about what's going on and how to access it. And also just reshare whatever we reshare. Like it's not mandatory, obviously, that's not part of your responsibilities. However, I feel like in order to get the word around campus, we do need those extra supports in order to reach groups that maybe we have little to no connection with.
Thank you, Jose. Any additional comments on this topic? Seeing none, we will move on. I will offer counselors the information that the amended budget will be coming to council at a future meeting. And as counselors, you folks have the ability to direct how money is spent, specifically student money. So if you feel that any of the budget items are incorrect, it is your ability to speak up and speak to what you think should be changed. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda for this evening, which is the committee appointments. I'm going to briefly go over the committees that we have available. Got small. Sorry, folks, I'm just trying to get the screen shared. So for this evening, we are looking to fill all of our committees. We have a number of committees. The first committee is the Governance Committee. The Governance Committee is chaired by the UPEISU Chair. We review proposed changes to policies, bylaws, and the Constitution. It's composed of the Chair, the Deputy Chair, the President, 4 counselors. We have 4 counselors who join that committee this evening. Next, we have the funding committee, chaired by the VP Finance. It reviews student applications for academic funding, undergraduate and graduate, as well as clubs funding. It's composed of the VP Finance, the graduate student representative, the Doctor of Veterinary Medicine representative, the clubs coordinator, 1 student at large, and 3 counselors. So we'll be looking for 3 counselors on that this evening. The Budget Committee, chaired by the VP Finance, which creates and reviews the annual budget of the UPEISU. It's composed of the VP Finance, the President, the General Manager, 1 student at large, and 4 counselors. We have the NIFT Committee, the New Initiatives and Future Directions Committee, which is chaired by the President. It assists the President with special projects, creates a strategic plan for the organization. I like to think of this as the center of innovation for the UPEISU, so anything new would come through this committee. We'll be looking for, it's composed of the President, the General Manager, the Graduate Student Representative, the International Student Representative, the Indigenous Student Representative, 1 student at large, and 3 counselors, so 3 vacancies on that. And then finally, we have the Academic and External Steering Committee. This assists the VPACs with the direction of advocacy priorities and directs oversight of partnership with external organizations. It's composed of the VPACs, the PRC, Policy and Research Coordinator, the 3 Senate reps, the Graduate Senate Representative, the Board of Governors rep, and 1 faculty rep. So we'll be looking for a faculty rep for that this evening. At this time, we will try to fill those committees. The way we do this is by having folks nominated to those committees. In order to do so, what I will do is I'll first ask who is interested in being nominated to the committee, and we'll see how many folks are interested. If there's more than the amount of vacancies, then we will hold a miniature election to determine the representatives on that committee. I am going to ask first for the governance committee. If you could indicate by raising your hand who is interested in joining the governance committee. I see the first year representative Adam, I see the science rep Laura, I see health and wellness representative Bray, and I see arts rep Chioma, and I see arts rep Nelly. So that means that we have 6 folks who are interested in governance. I'm just going to write those down. Yeah. One, two, three, four, 6. Okay, so I have 6 folks who are interested in sitting on this committee. Is there anyone else who is interested in sitting on this committee?
One of the counselors raised a point of information.
Alexander, yes, a point of information.
Yeah, so I was wondering if this is different from the first time that
Yeah, so the first time that we did the committees were interim committee appointments. These will be official appointments for the year. Thank you for bringing that up. So
Okay,
anyone who was seated to a previous committee, you are no longer seated to that committee.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will ask a final time if anyone else is interested in sitting on governance. I see Akeme in the chat. Are you interested in sitting on governance? Yes, okay, I will add you to my list. Thank you, folks. In the interest of time, possibly we'll go through who's interested in each committee and then do the elections simultaneously. And I'll move to the funding committee. Who is interested in sitting on funding committee? I'm going to ask folks to lower their hands from the previous time. Okay, so interested in sitting on funding committee. Representative Sam. Is there anyone else interested in funding committee? I see Sierra. Is there a third person interested in sitting in on funding committee? In order to be able to move forward, folks, we do need to fill these committees. So I'll ask again for a third representative on the funding committee. Seeing none, I guess we will come back to this one. The next committee I have is Budget Committee, and I have 4 vacancies on Budget Committee. I see Star, I see Education Rep Sam. Who else would be interested in sitting in the Budget Committee? I see Chioma. A 4th person or more who would be interested in sitting on the Budget Committee. I see Sierra and I see Akshay. And I see Nelly. Great. Thank you, folks. I'll get folks to lower hands for that one. We'll now move to the NIFT committee. There's 3 vacancies on NIFT. Who is interested for NIFT? Number of folks. Okay, that's Ala. That's Star.
Point of information.
Yes.
I do not need to put my name here, right? International
No,
rep?
international rep is already seated on the committee. Yep,
Thank
so
you so
grad
much.
rep, international rep, and indigenous rep are already seated members of the committee.
Thank you so much.
That, thank you.
Point of information.
Yes.
Could you please zoom in so we can actually read what you're typing? All right, and I'm just wondering, yeah, could you please remove my name under the budget? That was a mistake. I did not mean to raise. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So I've got Al, Star, Sam McLean, and Business. We got 2 Sam M's. Very hard. Yeah, Bud's person unfortunately cannot sit on any of our committees. Has everyone who is interested in sitting on this committee been noted? Akini is also interested in sitting on this committee. Thank you, folks. Last one is the Academic and External Steering Committee. Has to be a faculty. That is a lot of reps. Okay. Let me go through this. So, Sioma is interested. Nala is interested. Business is interested. Alexander is interested. Riley is interested. Nelly is interested. And unfortunately, Akshay, as Board of Governors rep, you are not a faculty rep, so you are ineligible to sit on this committee. Is there anyone in addition to the folks noted here that wishes to sit on this committee? It is now 9:05. We have exceeded the 3-hour time limit for this meeting. I will now entertain a motion to extend this meeting by 30. Malik, I believe you had the intention to move this motion.
I would like to raise a motion to extend this meeting by 30 minutes.
Thank you, Malik, for that motion. Can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Tasneef. Malik, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to get through the rest of our agenda today. Thank you, folks, for your patience and staying with us. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for the motion. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? I see that someone would like to move a different motion. However, we are unable to move a different motion at this time. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Seeing no one, we will move to a vote on the extension of the meeting by 30 minutes. You may now vote in favor, opposed, or to abstain to extending the meeting by 30 minutes. For new counselors, so we're saying, why can we only extend it by 30 minutes? It's as per our bylaws. The longest time a UPEISU meeting can exist is for 3 hours and 30 minutes. Thank you. That vote is ended and the motion has carried. We are now extended to 9:35 p.m. as our ending time for this evening's meeting. Akine, you had noted that you wish to move a different motion. Seeing no note in notes, I will continue moving on. Okay, we will be moving back to the committee appointments. And what we are going to do is into an election. I'm going to need a moment to set it up through Zoom, folks. We'll go governance committee and then continue through. So all of the folks who are interested will be entered into a poll.
Point of information.
Yes, Sam.
If your name is on this ballot, you can't vote, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so Adam, Laura, Brian, Nelly, Shana, Carrie, Katrina.
Point of information, a
Yes,
council
ma'am.
member can be a part of more than one committee, right?
Yes, however, we will fill them in order for folks who are interested. So if you are elected to governance committee, you will not be elected to another committee unless there's no one who is interested in that next committee.
Can I please have my name removed from the governance committee, please?
Yes.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to edit that? Okay. Adam, Laura, Gray, Chioma, Carrie. Multiple choice. Okay, I'm sure we'll watch this in Zoom now. Okay. Hi, Akshay. I see your note on that. Can you add your name to the last committee, which is the Academic External Committee? Unfortunately, you cannot be on this committee as you are not a faculty rep. Faculty reps would be our Faculty of Art, Faculty of Science, Faculty of Business rep.
Okay, thanks. No worries. Yeah.
I have a question.
Ala, yes?
I'm a math and computer science representative. Is that a faculty?
Folks, I'm getting a lot of chatter, so I'm just going to have to mute. Ala, the floor is yours.
Okay. I'm the math and computer science representative. That's not a faculty, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Folks, in order to facilitate the voting on this, I would suggest, especially in the interest of time and the fact that we have other very important items on the agenda, I can take the lists that we've collected here and move them to an online voting poll, and they could be ratified at the next council meeting, should that be agreeable to folks. I'm going to launch a straw poll right now. So this is not an official vote of council. This is a straw poll. I'm just asking folks whether they would be okay with having the voting happening outside of council and the results ratified at the next council meeting in the interest of time. I am seeing most folks being in favor, so that is what we will move to on this item. So I'll once again allow folks to have the chance. Is there anyone else who wishes to add their name to one of these committee lists? Seeing no one, we will proceed with our agenda for this evening. The next thing I have on the agenda for this evening is notice of resignation. So I am going to open the floor to our president for this item.
Okay. Thank you folks for bearing with us until this time. I know it's pretty late, so I'll try to read that as best as I can. Dear members of the UPEISU Council, it is with a heavy heart that I have to present to you this notice of my resignation as President and CEO of the UPEISU. My time until now in my position has been extremely fulfilling. I've gotten the opportunity to both meet and work with such amazing people and have learned so much from them. Since taking office, COVID-19 has surely made this position quite challenging. My love and dedication to the UPEISU are big enough to know when it's time to take some time off, as I'm unable to dedicate as much time to the position as I feel it deserves. I'm looking forward to directing more focus on my academics and being able to get more involved with the UPEI community. I would like for it to be known that I understand it can be quite a challenging time for someone to take over my responsibilities. As such, I would like to make it known to council members that my resignation would take effect the day my successor would be elected. I also further intend on providing my utmost support for a transition, such that the candidate is able to serve UPEI students to the best of their ability. It has been such a great honor to serve as President and CEO of the UPEISU, and I look forward to seeing all the work this body is going to accomplish for students for the rest of this year. If there will be any question, I would be glad to help in any way possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that statement, Brian. Your letter of resignation was received and was accepted by the chair. And now I will open the floor to any comments or questions for Brian. Hey folks, sorry, I'm having a microphone issue. Any questions or comments for Brian? I see Carrie Cruz.
Thank you for everything, Brian. I know this wasn't an easy decision, but thank you for the work that you have done.
That really means a lot. Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie. Does anyone else wish to speak to this? I see the VPACs.
Yep, it's me, not the VPAX from her computer, just because my computer, as I mentioned, is broken. I would just like to thank Brian for the effort he's put so far from the summer until now. Definitely we appreciate, or I appreciate the effort you put in, and I also respect your decision of prioritizing your education and other endeavors. But yeah, thanks for everything.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Jose. I see the International Student Representative, Tasnis.
Hey, Brian, thank you for everything. Would have really loved some more time with you in the council, but I wanted to wish you best of luck for your future and thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Tasneef. I'll always be here. I'll be around. I'll be here to help and support in any way I can.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Any additional discussion on this topic? As a personal note, Brian, I just wanted to say it's been really great getting to work with you. I've really enjoyed it. I've worked with a number of UPEISU presidents in my time. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you well in future endeavors. And I do see Alexander wishes to speak as well.
Yeah, I just want to thank Brian for all of his hard work until now, and say that I respect your decision a lot, and I wish you the best of luck for your education endeavors.
Thank you. I'm actually really grateful for like all the support. It's amazing. It's like making me tearing up also. Oh my goodness. But yeah, thank you so very much for everything. I've loved working with you folks.
I see the VPACs.
Yeah, I just want to echo everyone's thanks and gratitude here, and I want to say it's definitely not an easy position. So thank you for all the time that you have given us as a team, and you have given this position. And it's. I wish you the best of luck moving forward with your academics and also being engaged with student life, because I know you'll be around definitely, and I just want to say thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And no worries also like even about the position. There's also, that's something I wanted to say to everybody also. A lot of people have already contacted me that would be interested in running. I am very open to providing information and being able to be a resource and help. If you have any question, if a friend wants to run in anything, I'm always here to be able to help.
Great, thank you very much, Brian. And as Brian highlighted in his letter of resignation, Brian will be staying on as President and CEO of the UPEISU until the date at which a new president has been elected. That moves us to the next item on our agenda for this evening, which is approval of the election dates for a presidential by-election. So the proposed dates for the presidential by-election include an advertising period starting October 26th and running to the 29th. That would then allow for nominations to be open from October 30th to November 9th, which would follow by campaigning from November 10th to the 16th, which would end with elections happening from November 17th to the 18th. I would now open any discussion on those dates. Those dates have been selected in order to create a smooth and quick transition and allow for a new president to be approved and sworn in by council by the November 22nd council meeting, which would be a fairly quick timeline. If there is no discussion on these dates, I would be asking for a motion to approve the by-election dates as presented. I see Carrie Cruz.
I'd like to make a motion to move the approval of the by-election dates.
Thank you very much. Can I get a seconder for that motion, please? Seconded by Adam, first year representative. Carrie, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, thank you.
Great. Would anyone like to speak to that motion? Seeing no one, we will move to a vote. All in favor of approving the by-election dates as presented? All opposed, and anyone who should wish to abstain? I see someone who wishes to abstain. Could you please indicate your name in the chat box, just so it can be recorded? So that motion has carried, and I see that it is RS Nelly who wishes to abstain, and that will be recorded in the minutes. That brings us to, sorry, that motion has carried. We'll now move on to the agenda. That brings us to the new business section of the agenda. If anyone has any new business, please raise your hand to indicate you'd like to be on the speakers list. Ikimi, I see you would like to be on the speakers list. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I have a question. So is this to like move a motion, a new motion, or just something new?
Yep, you can move a motion within new business. You can just ask a question or bring a new idea to the table. Anything like that's open in new business.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, the business building at UPEI has been open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. during weekdays. So, and I've gotten some complaints from students, business students, that they want the time to be extended. That is from 8 till 10 p.m. from Mondays to Friday. The reason because some students are working and they work different shifts, and they want to like have some time to study. Some of the students work during the day, some work during the night. So like extending the time for the business building opening time till 10 p.m. will kind of give them more opportunity to study or do whatever they want to do, or have group meetings, stuff like that. And again, we are entering into exam period, which is kind of more stressful. So that will kind of help a lot, because I've received I've so many students, many business students have asked me to like talk about it. So I'm bringing it forward here to make some changes or amendments. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you very much for bringing up that topic, Akene. This is a great example of something that should be brought up during new business. In order to move forward with this, we don't require a motion. What I would do is I would connect you with the VPACs and the president, and one of those folks should be able to work with you to contact the building, to contact the administration about the building hours. Malik, I believe this would fall under you. Is this something that you can help Akene tackle?
Yes, I think we could definitely contact some folks and ask some questions.
Great, thank you very much. So I will leave it to Malik to contact you, Akene, and see how we can deal with this.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has anything to raise during new business this evening? Seeing no one, I will move to the next item on the agenda, which is adjournment. At this time, I am asking for a motion for adjournment. I see Brian.
Hello, me again. I move to adjourn the meeting. Thank you to everyone to have stayed with us for all this time for this meeting.
Thank you very much, Brian. Can I get a seconder for that motion, please? Seconded by the education rep, Sam. Brian, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. It's been great. It's been wonderful. Thank you for all to be here. I think it's been a fantastic meeting. I'm looking forward to all the work each of you folks will be doing this year.
Thank you, Brian. Would anyone else like to speak to the adjournment? I see Senate Rep Jennifer. think it might have been left the hand up. Should you wish to be added to the speakers list, click raise hand again. Seeing no one, we will move to a vote. All in favor, all opposed, and those who wish to abstain on adjournment of this meeting. That motion has carried. We are officially adjourned at 9:25 p.m. Thank you, counselors, for lively discussion throughout the meeting. I know executives must be thrilled. It's great to see so many people engaged at such a high level, and we really look forward to more meetings just like this. I hope you folks have a lovely evening, and that's all. That's the end. See you next time.
Great. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Have a good week.